Hello, Lady Ali, are you here?
All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. You know, if it's Friday, you know it's time for All Politics or Local. Um, you know, if it's the fourth Friday, you know it's time for uh, the disciples. So we're waiting for the disciples to come aboard. So when they do, we'll bring them in. So, but they're going to be up first, of course, at 6 o'clock to 7. So, John, you want to give the rundown for what's coming up after that? Of course, you know that Al-Tariq White is not going to be on tonight because he has a fundraiser, so he's going to be on next week.
Oh, I did not know that.
I sent you a text. You were part of that text chain, John.
All right, well, didn't didn't get that. All right, so we have a slightly different lineup tonight then. All right, so the lineup tonight we have the disciples at 6 o'clock, and then at 7 o'clock, we do civic discourse, and when we're doing civil
I think,
civic
I think
discourse,
you're
we're doing
frozen.
this. I'm sorry.
I think you're frozen. Oh,
Okay, I
I can
think.
see you now. You're moving. Okay.
All right. So we're dedicated to civil civic discourse. At 7:10, we're going to start off with Al-Tariq White, but he's not going to be there. And when we're talking about civil civic discourse, we have a lot of candidates who are running for public office. There are a lot of candidates who are running for public office. Just hit us up if you want to be on. We're reaching out to some people. Some people are reaching out to us, and we try to fit people on as we can fit them on. At 7:30, we're going to have Josephine Garcia. She's running for at large on the Newark Municipal Council. We'll have her on at 7:30. At 7:50, we're going to have Asia Norton, who's running for the South Ward Councilperson. And at 8:20, and Asia Norton, as you know, is been a part of All Politics are Local. So we're always good to have people that we know who are running for office as well. And very cool to have someone who's a part of the show running for office as well. At 8:20, we have Tanisha Garner, who's running for Norton Mayor. And at 8:40, we have William Jetti, who's also running for South Ward Council person. So we have a lot of people on that you may have seen before, you may not have seen before, but that's part of what we do in All Politics are Local. We want to have all the politicians who are running for public office on, so you have a chance to meet them, know who they are, because one of the most important things we can do is have a site for civil civic discourse. And now we know that the disciples are coming up. But Ed, is there anything you want to talk about beforehand?
Well, I mean, obviously, this campaign in the city is absolutely pretty contentious at this point. So I think that I mean, I've never, I mean, all of my years being involved in politics, I've never seen this many people. Uh, I don't even know who all of the candidates are. There's so many.
Yeah, same here, same here. So that's what I said, that if you are running for office and you want to be on the show, hit us up by email. We'll try to get you on. And there are people who just been hitting us up. They've been sending us stuff, and we've just been like, hey, uh, come on, let's do it, and having them come on to say who they are. Because again, civil civic discourse is important. Now you say it's contentious. What do you mean by that, Ed?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people making a lot of personal statements, about the Barack administration. It's one thing to make statements based on policy. It's another to make statements based on people personally, and then make statements based on people integrity. I think
Man,
that.
so Ed, you're saying in North politics, people are going for personal attacks and just slanderous kind of stuff and accusations and
Oh yeah.
negative campaigning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that, those kind of things, I think, particularly now in this climate, right? I think that when you talk about politics in the age of Obama, I mean, the age of Trump versus the age of Obama, it's totally different. I think that you talking
Really
about,
different?
no, listen, John, I think if you talk about, right now, it's a level of, I really don't give a damn about what you think. I don't give a damn about civility. And it's
And,
difficult.
and hasn't it been that way for a while? I mean, I seem to remember Barack Obama I remember Hillary Clinton being accused of all kinds of evil stuff. She was like a drug dealer, like she was engaged in in impolite behavior with people in her car who got killed. They accused her of being like a mafioso, like Obama. They accused him of being the Antichrist. I'm just saying, like, they is it really different now than it was then? Because I just my memory going all the way back to the '90s and the '80s is you got conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, and this person's involved with the mob, this person's a gang member, this person is is worshiping the devil. Like they taught people worshiping devils. Like
Yeah,
uh,
it's a little different now, John, because what we're talking about is we're talking about people who are being accused of committing crimes. We're talking about people calling the FBI. We're talking about people calling law enforcement agencies and having people backgrounds examined. And we haven't seen black people and remember, when you start
you
talking about
mean we haven't seen this since Cohen Tulpa? I'm just saying
now
we
folk talking about
it's
something different, right? We're talking about white folk going after black folk in a different kind of way. We're talking about people who don't really have any power going after people who have local and community power, right? And I think that and remember, John, this kind of stuff have long lasting effects on how you move in the community as a particular person, right? Whether you be a senior, whether you be a young person, it has long lasting effects on people because of their credibility. And when you live in a community, remember, Jonathan, when you go to a supermarket in the community and you got your wife and your children and somebody walk up to you, I mean, it's the same kind of thing that's happened to you with that guy John Nemo walking up to you at your job, right? And getting into a physical altercation based on something he doesn't know. Well, we got people who are doing that to elected officials at this point, right? And so you got people who are being followed around. We got people who are being videotaped, right? I mean, those are real serious security issues based around people, Jonathan, who are not law enforcement people, based around people who are basically people who support one candidate over another candidate. Those kind of things are dangerous, right?
okay.
And remember, you go back to, if you take it to hip hop, we talk about people who followed Biggie, or people who followed Tupac. And remember, these are these are people who, got involved in physical and deadly altercations with people, right? And so these kind of things, John, can go in a whole different direction, right? So, and it's difficult people to understand the difference between personal and business, right?
I,
Those two lines
but
get blurred.
I hear you. But our two guests are here. I don't want to take up more of their time with us going back and forth. We have, and not our
We
guests,
not
people who
guests.
show it
You
is,
the guest. Good
who
evening.
show it is. Right.
Good evening,
You're right.
Jonathan. You the guest.
You're
Don't be
right.
calling
You're
me and
right.
Lady Balena no guest. We
You are
Hello,
absolutely right.
everybody.
listen,
You are
Eddie.
absolutely right.
Good evening. I'm just messing with you.
I've been
Right.
hanging out with my
Listen,
grandkids, so I feel like a guest today.
wait a minute, lady, first lady Belina. Truth is, Jonathan has his own platform. And Brother Ed gave myself, yourself, of course, God rest his soul, Pastor Ali and Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, who was our lead host, a platform. So we're just honored that we're all guests on this wonderful, wonderful. All politics are local. North's number one, the United States number one, America's number one, this world's number one. Hip hop, hip hop, hip hop, hip hop. Brother Ed, I just love all politics are local. I really, really do.
And we love
Um,
you, Roundtree.
and when I get past May, we got one more show coming after the election, and starting in June, I'm going to give Lady Ali and Minister Abdul Haq and yourself And Jonathan, a list of guests to be invited that will be confirmed as we go into our ninth. I don't know if this is our eighth year, ninth year. I don't know what year this is. But I told you to go look at that initial picture we took on the steps of St. Well, first, let's start out by saying, good evening, good evening, good evening. This is Reverend Louise Scott-Rountree, council member at large for the city of Newark, founder of the Newark Interfaith Alliance. Honored to be here tonight as I am on a journey to re-election, but I'm the first journey and the main journey and the full journey and the one journey that I'm proud to be a part of as serving to the people. And how are you, Brother Jonathan and Brother Ed and the one and only Baba Zaid? How are you? And then my sister. See that? Since y'all didn't introduce us, let me say how we are thankful that my sister, Lady Balena Ali, is in the house. She's back. She's back. She's back.
Almost didn't make it. I told you I'm hanging out with the grandkids. The 9-year-old turning 10 tomorrow, so I made over 100 cupcakes and still gotta make some brookies for her party
Ooh-wee.
tomorrow. Yeah, I've
Ooh-wee.
been hanging out with the grandkids. One turning 18 May 6th, and she
Oh
going to
my
the
God.
prom. Yeah,
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I've been all over the
Oh my
place. I miss you
God.
guys. I miss you guys. Oh my God, I
And
miss
we
y'all.
miss you
We
too.
miss you.
Love you guys.
We love
I
you.
love you too. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, well, I'm out here with Councilman Council. We are grinding. So, I always take my show on the road. But we have, of course, here lately it's been on the road and probably be on the road till May 12th. After May 12th, the guests will be invited and they will be able to run with Brother Jonathan and Brother Ed. And I get ready to park in somebody's driveway because we do not need to be calling Brother Ed to represent me to get my car or not have a problem. Anyway, okay, we're going to go ahead. Let's see. Let me just park, guys. Um, all right, I'm good. Here we go. So, Lady Galene Ali, you want to tell us about what's been going on in your life? As we know tonight, the mayor is at the men's meeting. I'm over at Central High School as the men come together once a month to meet. Our women's meeting is coming up on Tuesday. But we have the one and only First Lady Belina Ali. Talk about what you've done since you've been away from us, the things that you've been involved with, the things you want to talk about. What will you talk about to our listening audience today?
Well, like I said, I've been hanging out with the grandchildren. I've been the
Okay.
personal photographer. I've been the chef. I've been doing hair, planting, gardening. My trees in my backyard fell down from the last snowstorm, so I'm in the
Okay.
process now of getting a fence put up in my backyard.
Oh,
It's just,
okay.
it's been a whirlwind. I've been on a whirlwind. Needless to say, it's times like this when I really know my husband's not here because normally he would be doing this stuff. But I had to pull up my big girl panties and strap on my boots and do what I got to do to keep my house safe and keep my grandkids safe. So I got to get a fence put around the house because you can see into my backyard from 15th Avenue and I don't like that.
I got
So
it. I got it.
I got to get a fence put up. So putting that out there, if y'all know any contractors, I had a couple of contractors, but I think they trying to rip me off because they think I'm a lady and don't know no better. So they trying to rip me off.
Hmm.
One of them want to charge me $4,000 just for labor.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so
Oh Lord.
I know about baking. I can probably put a brick together. I could probably put a wall together, but I don't know about putting no fence together. So I've been all over the place trying to just keep my grandkids safe. About 2 weeks ago in my neighborhood, a kid was missing and the cops was looking for this kid. I still don't know if Irvington cops found that kid, but that's the kind of stuff I gotta protect my grandkids from, being missing.
Hmm.
You said
All
there's
right.
a child missing
And
in
my pastor
Irvington.
had his 1 year anniversary this year, and I was excited about that. Um, Reverend Roundtree was there with us. So, like I said, I just been all over the place, all over the place.
Did you say that there was a young man missing in
Okay,
Irvington?
I can't hear y'all.
Can
Ed,
you
I don't know what it is. I can't hear y'all.
can you hear me, John?
I can hear you.
Yeah, she can hear us. Can you hear me, lady?
Scott-Rountree, can you hear us? Councilwoman, can you hear us? Councilwoman,
Balena.
can you hear us?
I can't hear y'all.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Here we go.
Councilwoman, can we
Can
hear?
you hear
Can you
me
hear us?
now? Can you
We
hear
can
me
hear
now?
you.
All right.
We
I
can hear
told
you.
y'all. I
But
told you the show was on the road. Councilman Council, come here,
I can't.
cause you know I'm on the air, right? I'm trying to multitask. Say good evening to all politics are local.
Man, good
hello.
evening to all of these good brothers on All Politics, the local, my good brother Ed Riley, and the
Yeah.
incomparable Jonathan. How's the brothers tonight? How's everybody doing?
What's
We're
good,
good. How are you,
Jonathan?
man?
I'm good, man. I just can't wait to, get back on the show to tell everybody all the wonderful things that's happening in the South Ward so that
We're,
we
and
know
we're
what's really happening and what's really going on.
and we're hoping to have you on next week.
Yeah, let's do this.
All
Next
right.
week.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
As as what's the name said, to kill all the rumors and straighten the facts. See, that's the MC
well,
verse of the night.
well, you can start right now. We have a lot of candidates on tonight. Some from the
Oh,
South
really?
Ward. If you want to
Yeah,
start right now, I'm
Well, they
saying
not on
like
my
start
forum.
right now.
that's
Wait a minute. Hold on. This is
that's
the
the whole
hold
thing,
on. This
brother.
is the disciples. This
Uh,
is Pastor Council and Reverend running at large in South Law. Now I don't know about the other
Yeah,
candidates,
God,
and we thank God for all
he
the
was ready.
candidates. Um,
But don't forget when you talk about the famous hip hop song, I want you to remember the symphony, brother, by the
uh,
Juice Crew All Stars. And don't
uh,
forget the great line by Craig
uh,
Mack to kill all the rumors and straighten the facts. See, we
uh,
growing, we moving, man. So we
uh,
just want everybody to know that we just out here on the ground pounding, talking to the residents in this great South Ward about all of the things that are happening. 19% crime reduction in 2025. Right now, we currently stand at a 46% reduction in crime in the South Ward. So everything might not be perfect. This is not utopia, but it doesn't stop us from moving, doesn't stop us from working together, growing together, development happening all around the South Ward as we continue to grow and move and make sure that we're economically strong in this community and making sure that the South Ward gets everything that it needs, from brand new high schools like the new University High School that's on the way, the new Media High School that's on the way. We continue to move and grow, create partnerships with our CBOs, our nonprofit organizations that are continually work and grow and make a tremendous effort at what is happening in this war. So I can't wait to get on with you guys. I gotta, get back on there, but we want to continue to make sure that these relationships are great and that we're, providing good and wholesome information and look forward to all of the work that you guys continue to do on All Politics Are Local to keep us engaged, keep us informed, but more importantly, to never forget where we come from, because our struggle is circular. So we want to continue to recognize what we need to do to continue to lift and help each other out along the way.
but there it is, Pat. That is the difference, right? In all politics are local. We begin to hear
but
directly
did you have any questions for the councilman of the South Ward? And what happened to everybody else?
and what's
See, I
going
told y'all
on.
we take this show on the road
Yeah.
during the spring. You don't know who you're gonna run into and who's gonna be on the show talking about the progress and the process. Uh, yes.
But
And then we have with us the newly elected school board president. We don't have no more.
But Jonathan, that's the difference, man. Right? Being able to hear
Okay.
directly
So
from the
I
elected official.
have a whole bunch of folk. Where is he? Oh, there he is. I got to get you guys to the newly elected school board president, who is, uh-oh, we got a little puppy out here.
Wait a minute, you talking
I'm
about
going to introduce to some of you as soon as he comes from behind the newly elected school board president, Brother Hassani Council. I'd like you to be my guest today on our program. Brother Ed, where were you guys? I can't see your face. There you go. There you go, Brother Ed, Brother Jonathan. I told you it's always an adventure with me. We walk in these streets. Can't
yeah,
nobody talk about us not being in these streets. Do you hear me?
yeah,
I
yeah,
just normally don't go public when I'm in the street. But
yeah.
today is a different day. Hold on here.
Yeah. No, nobody do it like you,
Hello,
Roger.
Brother President. I'd like to invite you to be my guest today. I want you to talk about the Newark Public Schools in your newly re-elected position. We have with us today the one and only Hassani Council. You just met his father. Those of you I know didn't just meet him. You know who he is. You know who our Southward Councilman is, who works in recreation. Well, he has a son. His son's name is Hassani Council. This is his third term, I believe.
Yes.
And he is one of the most profound leading chief of staff to Brother Pastor Council, but he is also the president of the Newark Public Schools Board, just got elected. Would you like to please say welcome to our not newly elected, re-elected Newark Public Schools Board president? I introduce to you Mr. Hassani Council.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was just here a couple weeks ago,
Yes, you
back on
were.
again. I was here as a candidate. Now I'm reelected on the Newark Board of Education. But, as you can see, the work doesn't stop. We're still out here working in the community to make sure we have victory on May 12th as well.
Well, congratulations.
Well,
Congratulations.
congratulations, Hassani.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Let me
so,
get.
so you are the president again of the Board of Education.
So we have to reorganize come May 7th. We'll have our reorganization meeting where we'll choose our board leadership again and go through that whole process of reorganizing as a board. So we will
Okay.
see come May 7th.
All right. And anything you want to tell us that's new or happening in Newark Public Schools that you want to shout out as a
Well,
newly elected board member?
Well, I think everyone should take a look at our Facebook and our Instagram pages for Newark Public Schools. We've been putting out a large sum of information called NPS Facts, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are putting unfactual information out here about the Newark Board of Education. So we've started a whole campaign around NPS Facts. So I, want everyone to take a look at that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that are coming out? Like I know that one of the things that came out was 894 high school seniors in Newark in our Newark public schools, not our charter schools, but in our regular
Hmm.
Newark public schools. 894 seniors are graduating with their associate degrees. They're not
Yes.
graduating with their high school diplomas. They're graduating with their associate degrees. Can you
Mm-hmm.
talk to, well, what's that about?
I mean, that's outstanding. We've had this partnership program that we've created with all of these different institutions in our city as well as outside of our city to make sure that our students are not only graduating with their high school diploma, but most of them, before they graduate with their high school diploma, are graduating with an associate's degree. So now, when they go off to college, they only need to complete 2 years, which is saving money in their parents' pocket. And we've also put out about $684 million in scholarships that our students have received last year.
Yeah.
Wow. You said how much in scholarship students receive?
$684 million just in scholarships.
Hold on, stop. You said that Newark Public School students we've got 894 kids graduate not just with their high school diplomas, but with
Yes,
their associate's degrees. And we have raised over, you said, how many millions?
684 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So we've been
Now,
doing some great work.
Yeah.
now what,
Despise what the articles are saying, the cynics are saying. We've done a tumultuous amount of work in this district.
now a question I have also is Newark is considered by the New Jersey State Department of Education a high performing district,
Yes.
right? We
And
called it a high
we're
performing district.
currently going through CUSAC again, um, and we'll have some great news that'll be coming out in the coming weeks about that status as well.
Okay. So why don't more people know about it or because it doesn't seem like people know that Newark has officially been designated as a high performing district, that test scores are up, that a lot of the kids who are getting their associate degrees are from West Side, right?
Yep.
Like they have a strong program of kids getting their associate degrees. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's West Side, Bard, East Side, I think, um,
Yes. University.
and University, right? So we've got like a series of schools, both and Bard. I think we have both magnet schools and
Mm-hmm.
and district schools that both that are putting out this high number of students graduating with associate's degrees. And I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think people talk about it enough. I don't think people have have had a conversation about what it means to be a high performing district in
Well,
Newark.
I think they don't know because they don't want to know. They don't want the district, to have any positivity going on. Um, because the information is out there. It's visible for everyone to see. We've hired, before we did have issues with, communicating information out there. We've hired a great communications director that put out press releases almost every single day. You can subscribe to those press releases right from our North Board of Education website. Um, the press gets this information, but the press is not sharing the information because they don't want to share the information because it's not negative.
And you know, for people who might not know, here's a question like, why do you think that what is the benefit for only negative information about Newark Public Schools to come out? Like, who does that benefit? Why is
It,
that even a thing? Especially when you like we have these elections coming up, right?
mhm.
And a lot of people are running as if the schools are failing, like kids can't read, and like people are still using a lot of these old tropes. But what do you say to that? Because you're right now you are in campaign mode. You're campaigning for your father. You're campaigning for much of the team. How does the school board and what's been going on in Newark Public Schools? How does that affect how the campaign is going?
It affects it because if people are only hearing negative information, like yesterday, I was talking to a group of residents, and they were, hey, but what is this? What is this? After I broke everything down to them and explained and gave them the information needed, they were like, wow, we didn't know this. We didn't seek that information about Newark Public Schools. So it's more about you have people putting out negative information, and we have to be better at countering it with the factual information of what's really going on. So it's been very helpful. And most of these, individuals are just taken to social media, and not every resident is on social media. So the residents that we're encountering every single day, knocking on their doors, talking to them, those are the ones that's going to actually come out and vote, not the people on social media.
Right, right. Ed, now I can't hear you. You're on mute. Ed, you got to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself again because I think I might have muted you.
But you know what, Hassani? That's why I think we need a major rally, right? Where we're talking specifically.
I can't hear him if he's.
Can you hear
Oh,
me?
Ed, can you hear? Can you hear him now?
I
No, I
can hear
still
him.
can't.
You can't hear me, John?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
But
Hassani can't hear me. Hassani, you can't hear me?
Hassani,
Yes.
can you hear Ed? So
No,
you
I
can hear
can't hear.
me.
I can
You
hear
can.
you, but I can't hear Ed.
All right. I'm
Oh
gonna go
man.
out, John, and come back in. All right.
Okay. All right. So you were saying that you were having you were having these conversations with people, and they're having these conversations, but they're just not knowing what's going on.
Hmm.
And
And we
I,
also got to realize a lot of our residents, right? They get up, they go to work, they come home. Like they don't. A lot of them don't really engage a lot in our community and engage in what's going on because of what they may be going through in their life, right? They
right.
may be behind in the bill. They got to work an extra shift, so they're not focusing on what's going on in the community until you actually come to them with that information.
Fair enough. Ed, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So,
Oh,
so
perfect.
Hassani, one of the things I was saying, I think that what the campaign needs to do next week is before the election on the 12th to dispel all of those rumors. There needs to be a major rally, right?
Hmm.
It's uh, you know tell no lies, right? But dispense what the truth is,
Hmm.
because we had we had Roger on 2 weeks ago, and Roger was talking about because there's this big conversation about this $500 million, right?
Hmm.
And so Roger had to break that down and explain what that was, but there are people out there who are telling a whole different story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to do a major rally before the election on the 12th that explains that, because what seems to carry the weight, as you know, in our community is all of these rumors,
Yep.
because it sounds good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets hype, it gets people that to tap into everybody's Facebook, and everybody's running around telling all of these lies, and they're not true, right? And so we need to do a big rally, because, as you know, one of the things that happen with our people in our community, Hassani, is they have low information, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they don't get an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
really, I mean, one of the things the mayor always says when he comes on, he says that unless we tell them what's going on, they don't really know what's going on because they're not really reading it, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Easy for other people to go and tell them stuff that they haven't researched themselves. What we should do, I think, that is we should organize a rally, and they should hear specifically from the people who are involved, like Roger, right?
Mm-hmm.
$500 million seems to be a lie that's running around in the community. That somehow
Right.
we put in a building for $500 million when we can do something about it, but they don't know the facts around it.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and so when your father come on next week, I think that's one of the things we're gonna talk about. Let's organize a rally with the team, and let's just tell what the truth is.
Tell the truth.
Yeah,
A no lies rally.
absolutely. There it is. I like that. No lies rally.
No
There it
lies
is.
rally.
Yeah, and let's see all the people who are running around. Let's see if all y'all want the truth. We're gonna do a no lies rally with
Yep.
the entire team. There it is.
Yep. Absolutely.
I'm gonna shoot Mitty a text, and I'm gonna say
Yep.
that, Mitty.
Send
Let's
send it
do it.
right to him.
Yep, there it is.
So let's talk about the school board elections a little bit more.
Oh, okay.
Like the turnout was really low, right, on the school board elections. Um, Talk to me about that. Like, what are your feelings about that? Um, about just the continuing low turnout. We got kids to vote now for the second year in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and turnout is still low. Um, what do you think the issue is? What do you think the problem
I
is?
think when we focus on the kids that get registered to vote, we also got to focus on their parents, because if their parents are not encouraging them to vote, then they're not going to get out and vote. Um, the turnout has been low, and speaking to a lot of residents, some of them like, hey, well, I don't have kids in school, I don't, and I'm like trying to encourage them, like, even though you don't have kids in school, you still pay taxes to the school system. You may have grandkids that's in school, your neighbor may have kids that's in school, so it's important that you get out and vote in this important election. And it's just going to be really hard to try to encourage people who just don't have anything that they can gain out of a school board election.
Mm.
And it's interesting because I know that, and I'm an advocate for 16-year-olds being able to vote. I think that's an important thing, to have the actual 16-year-olds having the right to vote in school board elections, especially when they're affected by it. And the thought was that there would be a lot more 16-year-olds voting, but I
Right.
think that the problem is what the problem always was, and that is, it won't change simply because we give more people access to vote if they don't know or feel or compelled to engage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I don't know if we're back to stage one, because I think every tool that we have to use is good to encourage people to vote, to build habits, and at least a few more people over time. But I do think it may make us all rethink how easy we thought that it would be in order to get a lot of people out to vote and excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What
Um.
is
yeah, but Jonathan, we still didn't do those. Remember, one of the things we were talking about with Hassani was, being able to make it one like a holiday. Remember, we talked about that, and we talked about, would you be able to give the students a day off, right? Something to encourage the young people, and then encourage the community, where it's almost, it's almost like some major holiday. We got to create some kind of promotion and publicity around it. You know what I mean?
Or or
That's
even
why it's such a
more
low pace,
basically,
low time.
if they could vote actually in their schools.
Right. And I
Like
think
if there
another
were
thing
polling
is
places set up in their
before
schools so people would be able to
before
do that.
the school board election wasn't even on the district's calendar. So that's something that we had to implement and making sure that we put it on the district's calendar because it wasn't even recognized anywhere on the district's calendar that this day there's a school board election.
Wow.
So even, in terms of, making it a holiday or anything else, I think those are all ideas, that we need to explore, making it a way to where the students can vote in their schools. I think that's good as well. I know there was a bill that the governor was working on in terms of like expanding, voting where you can vote anywhere within your municipality. Doesn't matter, what polling location. I haven't seen where that has gone so far, but I know that was being worked on at the state level.
And the thing is, we should be able to do that, right? Like we have so much in terms of information. We have so much in terms of the way that things, how things work in terms of computerized, centralized systems, that you're telling me that we can't safely vote from multiple central locations, right? Like at least those places within the county, right? Like I usually end up voting early. And I usually end up voting early because the place to vote early is just right down the street from where I work, right? Just take a stroll right to the Essex County. And I think that there was at least one site like that in all of the wards where people could vote early. Can people vote early in the school board elections?
No. So we have not done early voting in school board elections. One, because that does come with a cost. So the district, what most folks don't know, the district has to pay to run the school board election. And I believe this year it was roughly around like $450,000 that the district had to pay just to run a 1 day election.
Wow. Okay. So running election longer than that would be far more expensive, and those are district expenses for it.
Yes.
And it seems like that then being able to vote at your schools, and even parents being able to vote at their local school, that may be something that is a positive. So I know a lot of schools are already sites for elections, right? Like for the
Yeah.
local community. So I think at a certain point that parents pick up their kids, parents, uh, different ways of getting people to vote uh, are actually very important. Um, do you think much would change if there were more people involved or interested in voting in these school board elections? Do you think it would make a difference? And it's like, what kind of difference do you think would make?
I think it'll bring more excitement to the race. There'll be more attention, more individuals out, because when more people voting, you have to go out and gain those votes, those committed voters from those people. So it would bring an extreme amount of attention. If you think the school board election this year was kind of like drowned out because of the municipal election. So it really wasn't a heavy focus on that we even had a school board election. Most people didn't even know that it was a school board election. Even though, myself, my team, we were out every day, we were sending mailers, we were knocking on doors. It's still not enough to garner everyone's attention.
And it's interesting because we talk about the school board, and the school board has over a $1 billion budget. A lot of that comes from taxpayers, people who are living in Newark, and there's always comments about what should go on or what should change in schools. But you would think that people would come out more when they could have their actual say. Um, Anything else you want to talk about about school board? Anything that you want us to know that's coming up in this next school year? Or the summer, like coming up, uh, coming up further on, right? Like coming up both now at the end of the year and into the next school year.
Yeah, well, what was most exciting, just the other day, I received the renderings and designs. I can't release them yet, but the renderings and the designs from the School Development Authority for University High School, and that is going to be an amazing campus. It's going to look like a college campus, right, sitting in the middle of the South Ward on Hawthorne Avenue. It is going to be world changing, and it's something that our students deserve. So I'm
so excited about that. I can't wait to the SDA, release that information and they put it out to bid for somebody to bid on it so we can get started with construction of that school.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you know what though, Hassani, I think that one of the things we should start talking about, um, after the election, is I think we should start talking about how do we make the board president, right, more known, more active, right? Because I think that if people knew who you were a little bit more, and we could get the parents, get you in the community, get you at events, and get you just as known as the mayor, I think that would help getting people out, right? Because you would begin to educate the people about the work that is done, right? And getting people involved, because I think it's one thing to say that we want to be able to get the students involved, but it's another thing to make sure that we've got the parents engaged, right? And I think that a lot of that, has to come from them being able to know exactly who you are, right? And that, may mean, being able to get you out at the churches more, right? Get you out at social events more, so that you're talking about what's going on. Like you just said, we've got some new plans, we've got some new schools that are opening, right? People know Roger, but they don't know Roger wasn't really explaining, because people were talking about this $500 million, but they're not hearing directly from Roger, right? Or they're not hearing directly from you. And I think that will go a long way with making sure we dispel all the lies and rumors, right? Because remember, people get hyped and emotional based on these rumors and lies.
Yeah,
And,
you're right.
and unless we can get them to hear directly from the people who are making those decisions or involved in those negotiations. Listen, let me tell you something, Asani. One of the biggest things for me was when Roger said that when he was, going through the budget that you all were voting on, the biggest thing was to make sure that you all didn't lay off any teachers. Now you know damn well, Hassani, if y'all had laid off some teachers, you talking about some people that have been mad. Oh my God.
We would have had a war around here.
Yes. You talk about we having problems now. Oh my God. Y'all laid off some of them teachers. They'd have come down there, Hassani, they'd have moved you out personally. Right? So that's why I'm saying we've got to find a way to make sure that after this election, I'm going to talk to all of y'all and say, look, man, we got to make sure that on some Sundays you go into them churches too, man, and talking to these people so they can go back home. When these people are putting up these phony information and these senior buildings, they're saying, no, you know what? I happen to have seen Hassani, the president, in church on Sunday. And you know what he said, right? And so they heard directly from you. I think that's what we need to be talking about, man. So expect that we're gonna be talking to you, man, after the election,
Absolutely.
you know,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
true.
about
And
getting
I
you
think
out there.
And I think the other thing we need to talk to you about is apparently, and I didn't realize this until right before the superintendent came on our show a few weeks ago, that Newark is literally the Newark Board of Education. Him, you in particularly, have bullseyes on you from Republican legislatures. You have been accused of quite a few things by Republican legislatures in New Jersey. Like you are clearly wasting money, using it for food and having booze-filled parties that you are personally approving of. In your job as oversight, you are traveling the world
You in
and
Hawaii?
yeah, just hanging out, on the taxpayers' dime, and
I
just,
mean, I wish I went to Hawaii. I've never been. I've never been to Hawaii a day of my life.
yeah, like they're like, yeah, you taking drunken pictures in Hawaii, hanging off the side of the boat.
Listen, one thing I can say right about the $287 million that they say we misappropriated. So when the federal government came with these COVID dollars, and they gave them out to the states, what other states did was they gave that money directly to their school systems. What New Jersey did was they told your school system, hey, you spend the money first submit the receipts to us, and then we'll reimburse you. So if we misappropriated any money, we would have never been reimbursed.
Hmm.
Yeah, good point.
So you're saying that, and there are audits and audits on top of audits, and if something needs to be caught, it will get caught because it's not everything that's being spent is under a microscope anyway.
Yep. And we were already audited. We were one of the school districts out of the country that was selected to be audited for those federal dollars already.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting, man, because we there's not really a whole lot to talk about because it seems like when you've heard this saying, Hassani, when the truth come, a lie can't lie anymore, right? But as long as the truth never come, the lie exists, right? And so it's not a lot to talk about when you start telling people the truth because in their mind they're saying, wait a minute, so you mean to tell me your Hassani hasn't been to Hawaii? You mean to tell me he ain't got no Hulu skirts or none of that stuff or none of you? Wow, that didn't really happen. See, and that is the thing, man. I think that we've got to make sure that people are paying attention to finding out how do we really help these kids. And then, like Jonathan always saying, we need to let people know Newark is a high performing district, and we got to have the people who live in our community who say they love Newark. That's what we should be promoting.
Yeah.
Why do we all want to just talk about everything that's bad? Let's talk about what's good in our city.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're not the one that's the board president. That's really what it's about. Right?
Yeah.
So these people want to be the leaders. These people want to have the leadership job. I heard somebody say recently, Asani, they said that the real truth is that they really want to have a job that's paying them a salary where they can look like they're doing something when they really ain't doing nothing at all. Right? So it's
You're right
easy to
about
run
that.
around and say you're doing something as opposed to saying other people aren't doing anything.
Yep. And being a school board member in the state of New Jersey is a volunteer position. You
And then,
volunteer your time and your hours. In
yeah,
other states, they don't volunteer, but in New Jersey, you volunteer.
yeah. How about we tell them that part,
Yep.
right? That it's all volunteer. And then Hassani, you got to ask yourself, why would somebody want to do this job again after all you went through 4 years ago? Why would I want to put myself through this another 4 years and I
Yep.
don't even get paid?
Exactly.
Right. It's got to be because you love these
Because
kids,
you love it. You
right?
love it.
It's got to be because you love the city, right? And that is the point I'm making that we have to begin to tell people because people think that you somehow living high on the hog, right? And nothing could be far further from the truth, man.
Yep.
So I can tell you, Hassani, man, I'm grateful and respectful that you would even put yourself through this again, man. You know, because like I was telling Jonathan, I said, John, I said, you got to remember, these brothers and sisters here, they got to go to the supermarket too, right? They got to
Yep.
go to the cleaners, they got to go shopping. And for people to say that these people are committing crimes, I mean, come on, man. Let's be for real about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's real pain. But Hassani, let's talk a little bit about what it is that we need to do, right, in order to make sure that our young people not only are being involved more in elections, but that they're being more involved in community programs and community things that are going on at some of the schools. Well, how do we get them involved in those things?
We just need to. I know the district has been doing a great job in bringing in different partners. So we just need to continue to look for those partners, right, that have the best interest of the district and not just looking at us as if they're coming to get money, right? Because a lot of people look at us like that, right? They come and they want to partner with us because they just want to make money off of us. And they're not really there for the best interest of the students or the district. So the superintendent has been like very stringent on who he allows to work with the district because The students are important to him, and he doesn't want anybody that's just coming and that sees us as a cash cow.
That's right. That's exactly what we need to do. And that's what I say about some of these folks. I'm like, okay, so what's I mean, I can remember when I was coming up, a lot of the seniors used to volunteer their time who were retired, right? You know, but like you said, now you got a lot of people who see these opportunities and see the school as a cash cow. But yeah, wouldn't that be great if folks would volunteer? If you say you love the city and you care about the kids, let's volunteer to do
Let's
that.
volunteer first, and
Yeah,
that volunteering can turn into something,
that's right. And
especially if you have a successful program.
right. But we've got to be able to put those programs forward so that we can get them in front of the kids. I just listen, man. Like Jonathan said, I think that we need to be marketing everything that's good about the city of Newark, right? Because everybody is quick to say, "Oh, them kids ain't doing well. Them kids ain't this. Them kids ain't that." But then when we talk about saving $684 million in scholarships. I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
They say our third graders can't read, but if you go into a third grade classroom and hand them a book, I bet you they read it to you.
Mm.
But what they base this data off of is a state test that they give on a computer system. And they only give it in English or Spanish. So if you speak Haitian Creole, how are you going to pass the test? If you speak any other language, there's no
Wow.
way for you to pass that test.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow.
The amount of students that we service that are English language learners, special needs, is more than any other district in our city.
Mm.
Did you know that, John?
Yeah, I did know that there's a lot of times when it comes to the data, and one of the things that has always been very difficult is because the actual public school district serves lots of special needs students, lots of English as second language students, where they are where they're coming, and a lot of transient students who might be Newark Public School students one year but not the next. So it's not like we have there's a group of students who might come in their freshman, I mean, might come in the first or second grade, right? But then they leave, and then we get new kids coming in the third grade who have never been in the Newark Public Schools. So a lot of times we're used to looking at uh, the kids being there as linear, as in, oh, what have you been teaching the kid for these last few years, assuming that the same kid's going all the way through. So there are a lot of those issues, and then there's the issues where uh, uh, the superintendent Leon, when he wasn't superintendent, back when he was an assistant superintendent, he pushed a found or developed a study, looked at data, et cetera, and there was a direct correlation between the number of absences kids had and their not passing certain exams, which is why the push is for higher attendance,
Wow.
because we want to make sure the kids are in the classroom and they're in our classrooms more consistently. So I think that there's lots of nuance around numbers that politicians don't want to get into, and that always is that's often an issue.
Wow. I didn't know that.
One
Yeah.
of the things that was done that's also good is that there are a lot of kids who have Spanish as a first language are taking AP Spanish, or if they speak French or Creole as a first language, they're taking AP French. And part of the ways that we're increasing test scores in North is that a lot of these kids are learning that they can excel in areas where they can excel, which is great. Uh, Councilwoman Roundtree,
Close.
you are
I'm getting
you are
ready to
on mute.
close. I had two magnificent guests today. As we know that there is a wonderful, wonderful topics. This conversation will be continued. I'm going to make sure that Brother Hassani, Brother President Hassani, and Councilman Council who was actually on this call tonight, our two wonderful guests. I'm actually on my way into another meeting that I had to get on, but I do want to make sure that I inform people that on Tuesday, February 28th, we will we will have our women's meeting at the William Mobile Ashby Community Center, 695 Bergen Street at 6 o'clock. We will be dealing with suppliers, contracts, how to obtain one. The CEO from University Hospital will be on that. Um, in that meeting, First Lady Baraka, myself, and Amina Bay are the hosts for our monthly women's meeting. As you know, tonight the mayor has a meeting. Tomorrow, I have a grief symposium at the Priority Restaurant on West Market Street, hosted by myself, Reverend Tracy Tisdale. GoFundMe is not insurance. Grief, you cannot put a weight on it. You cannot tell people how to grieve, how much to grieve. But also, we do not estate plan. We do not prepare for after, people leave here without no plan. They leave here never no more to return, and families end up arguing over televisions and not being able to get into apartments and houses. And we need to do better planning because we don't know the day or the hour. So we'll be talking about irrevocable trust. We'll be talking about a few things. That's tomorrow at 11 a.m., a grief symposium hosted by myself, Pastor Tracy Tisdale, and a few other speakers to just surrogate's office to deal with the issues of planning. We invite everyone who's interested in knowing, thinking about, trying to figure it out, what to do about what they're going through, not just when they're grieving, before and after, how you can prepare to take less stress off. Of course, we know May 12th is coming. May 12th is coming. Um, Myself, along with Team Baraka, we are running for re-election. Team Baraka consists of 9 people. There is 3 at-larges, myself, Louis Quintana, and Larry. The 3 L's, live, love, and laugh. Louis, Louise, and Larry. Those are the 3 candidates. It's B17, B18, and B19. All politics are local. Mayor Baraka A2, and of course the ward seats, as you know, Patrick Council, South Ward, Central Ward, Amina Bay, East Ward as Michael Silver, North Ward is Anibal Ramos, and of course the South, did I say the West Ward, to Pray Kelly. I don't know what ward I left out, but the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and we're just going to do our best to serve the people to the best of our ability. We thank God for Patrick Council, Councilman Council, and Asani Council, our guest for today. None other than Sister Balena Ali, my sister in the movement. We are now going to turn it over to Brother Jonathan. Thank you for tuning in to All Politics are Local. And if Sister Balena has any closing remarks, we will hear from her. But I'm tuning out and saying God bless you. See you next month. But for sure, don't forget to vote.
There you go. May 12th. All right there, Councilwoman. Great show.
All right, thank you. As always, thank you. And we should call it. We should really have we should call it sometimes
I
Councilwoman on the
can't
Move.
hear nobody.
That's right. You
All
can't hear
right.
us, Roundtree?
And I got to get on the speaker.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Councilwoman.
I love
I was
you
go- I was
guys.
gonna say
We can hear
we
you.
should have a show called Councilwoman on the Move. Thank you, Councilwoman,
God
and
bless
we
you.
will see.
I love you
Yeah, thank you
guys.
very much. And we'll
Love
see.
you.
We'll actually see you before that because we're going to
You
try to get
definitely
you on
going
the
to see
show
me
the
a
one.
whole lot before that. But I love
Right,
you
because we want to
guys.
see.
Love you
All right,
too.
take care. We want to get you on. We want to get you on next week and before the election.
I'll be there next week. God bless you.
All
Love you
right,
Mhm.
take care.
guys.
Bless you.
All right,
God bless
love you back.
everybody. Jonathan and Baba Zaid. Carry on, carry on. All politics are local. I'm off and out. God bless you.
God bless you
All
too.
right.
Take care. All right, cool. So we have half an hour before our next guest before the candidates start coming on. So we're honored always to have Josie Gonzalez come on from uh, Public Square Amplified. The conversations are always really good. This is election night, and we talked earlier. You wanted to come on and talk about the school board elections that just passed and something about elections in general. So. What were some of your thoughts about school board elections?
Sure. Thank you so much for having Public Square Amplified on, as always. Really appreciate it. We don't have enough media outlets covering Newark, so it's important that we always collaborate and we participate together in covering this amazing city. our young people actually won an award about, I don't know, a year and a half ago or something like that, when the vote passed to allow 16-year-olds to vote. They'd covered it in Jersey City and they covered it in Newark, and they won an award for it. And one of the challenges we had was around civics, and monies allocated to really develop the civic consciousness of young people. It's not just getting them to the polls, right? And it's not just, I think we see this first election as problematic, and we're trying to figure out what went wrong. In materialist dialectic analysis, we often say it is about trial and error. And so this is the first time it's happening, and we should celebrate that it took place and that young people showed up. Whether they were bused to the polls, whether organizations organized and got them there, doesn't matter. It was the first time. And so we should give ourselves some time to be thoughtful about it, to be reflective about it, and also to encourage young people to see their peers and to sort of be intrigued and interested in what it means to vote. And so it takes time. This sort of revolution takes time. And so I think we're thinking of this as revolutionary, and that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So how do we begin not so much to develop party alignment, but rather to develop critical political consciousness of young people? And it doesn't happen when you're 16 or 17 or 18. It happens very early. How do you think about civic engagement? How do you think about government? How do you think about community power and participation? I think that takes time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 1 year. So I want to applaud the young people, whether or not they were bused there, whether or not they were, people sort of guided them in signing on whatever dotted line. But I want to say a shout out to those who actually showed up, and let us use that as a platform to sort of build a future in which we are developing a new voter turnout percentage point that is not typical or median, but that we're seeing young people outpace folks who are over 18, folks who are over 35. We're seeing them outpace it. I mean, they fell within the turnout rate. I mean, we don't see past 12% in Newark for voter turnout. And that is actually what we should really look at. So I want to say shout out to all the young people who showed up, and power to you. And I want to say to everyone, we really need to do far more work on civic and civic engagement that is nonpartisan, that is not about alignment with party. Because what I observed was that a lot of party alignment, right? And so we want to
So what do you mean by this? Like, because North traditionally has no real parties. I mean, everyone's Democrat. Most people have the same.
I call that party alignment.
Well, but even though everyone's Democrat, it's not like people are running as Democrats. Like, people are just running against each other, right? So these are like unaligned. Do you think introducing party politics would be a good thing, or like Republican Democrat Party?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, I think we're ready. We've introduced party politics, right? So when you say it's a democratic state and people are Democrats, we have consolidated the votes here as Democrats, right? So we've already done that. That is, I think, dangerous. We have to allow for, whether you're the Party for Liberation and Socialism, you're the Green Party, you're the Republic, we've got to allow for that space. But that, we have a lot of, we have young people show up in public square, and we've had young people who were aligned with the Party for Liberation Socialism. We've had folks who are Democrats, we have folks who are independent, non-aligned. The idea is, how do you understand your role as citizen, and how do you own that power and claim that power in the space, and vote in a way that gets you to trajectory. And that trajectory is that how we're creating a society where we're all sort of addressing the material conditions of the majority of society, majority of people in the community, majority of people on the block. We're a working class community in Newark. And so are we voting in ways that are transforming the lives of working class families? And are those students recognizing that they are working class, they're children of working class families and communities? And what do you want? Like, how are you changing the conditions? And so I think that's important. So we're already, if you say that folks are Democrats, you've already done party alignment, and that's, I think, is dangerous.
So you think that? So let me understand, right? Like you're saying that party alignment. What would that look like for there to be parties inside of Newark? Like right now, the Republican Party seems to be a little antithetical to, like, it seems hostile to the demographic of Newark. It seems hostile to people of color, women, Black people, right?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Immigrants.
So
Yeah,
when you
the
mean
whole thing.
party politics,
Yeah.
what is it that what you mean? Like, how would that look like?
Well, I mean, we also have a whole segment of the population that sees the Democratic Party as just, the left or right arm, to see it as part of the duopoly. So the questions that you're posing are really questions also for the Democratic Party, right? Are we transforming the lives? Is the Democratic Party transforming the lives of working class people in Newark, in New Jersey? And so many would say no. Many would say the conversation around political and economic transformation is not happening with the Democratic Party. So whether or not we open up to different parties just really matter. The fact is that Democratic parties locked down Newark and nothing has changed for Newark residents. In fact, we've seen so much displacement. We're seeing massive economic development at the same time, displacement of working class people. We do not see economic development for working class folks and small businesses. We're seeing massive economic development for developers that are not sort of, nascent to the city. I mean, I've just been living here for about 8 or 9 years. And so I'm an observer. I come out of New York City and I'm, still part of New York City, and sort of observing ways in which Newark, the most populous city in New Jersey, and with so much possibility and power, how are we transforming the lives of those who live in this city? And if we're going to rest that on young people, then we've got to develop the political consciousness of those young people. We've got to sort of engage them in thinking critically about power, about economics, about politics, really understanding what it means to be part of a working class community and working class transformational politics, which doesn't exist in Newark right now.
So when you're saying that working class transformational politics doesn't exist, like there are a lot of innovative programs that have come, through Newark. We're talking about like the anti-violence, from anti-violence protesters to anti-violence being a major part of the city. When you're looking at a lot of those crime reduction things, from like the Shawnee Center being rebuilt, all of that is the result of actual activism, the grassroots activism that literally was looking at solutions to this when they were not in power, got in power, and the politics started to reflect that type of solution-oriented thing, right?
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
We're growing up in the '80s. Like we never thought. Like I never thought that, given that Newark had school take over, that Newark would be considered a high-performing district, right? Through the different programs that are there, like programs from getting kids HVAC and different jobs upon graduation to getting kids associate degrees upon graduation. I think that you're saying something different than, I don't think you're saying that nothing is going on in Newark. I think you're saying something different. I think you're saying that there has to be a transformational politics that doesn't exist. What is it that you mean by transformational politics? And how is that different from an activist-based politics trying to use government to further solutions that they originated at, or at least embraced at a grassroots level.
Sure. So I think what you're tapping into is sort of the ideas about that. That and by the way, I'm speaking as an observer, and I want to be clear about that. And what I mean by observer is I am thinking and assessing and observing Newark as an observer. So that's an intellectual conversation. So I think what you're tapping into that I'm recognizing is sort of Amiri Baraka's sort of original thinking about how do we take control and transform. And so I think we've sort of moved through that. How do we take power? How do we take control? And what does that look like? And so I think his blueprint is demanding that we think critically about expanding the base to claim power into space. And that's about, and in connection to ways in which sort of the society at large is transforming. And so that sort of rests on young people, because I think we're talking about young people. Are we developing young people who are rigorous around social activism, building social justice movements, engaging in changing policy, right? On the one hand, sort of separate from participating in entrenched ideas about politics set up by generations, my generation, your generation past. So how are they claiming their space? How are they claiming power to sort of make changes, take it to the next level? That's what I'm talking about. Are young people prepared to do that? So we saw that in the 60s and 70s. Sorry.
And you're talking about this in a way that's generational, right? You're saying that when you're looking at the 70s and you're looking at late 60s, 70s, that was in Newark with Amiri Baraka and the movements that were there. Those were grassroots. They were actual widespread. The politics and activism connected. And they connected in a way that attempted to push policies that would help. The narrative on that is that they were able to put people in power, but then once certain people got in power, it's kind of like when they talk about the black middle class basically hijacked politics and forgot about working class people, which is Amiri Baraka's criticism, right? I think it's also, I don't want to speak for Ras Baraka, but I think that would be part of his criticism, and the way in which in his generation, there was, with Bashir Kenyele and the many people who were part of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, Keisha Yuri, like these were all people who were activists, started off as activists, and then ran for government and got in positions of government. And at least in terms of their signature policies, like the Office of Violence Prevention, is a direct result of all of the work and thinking that they had done based on how do you prevent violence. Mm-hmm. So that was a generational signature push for a policy that reflected years of activism and years of push. Is your question to this next generation coming up, what is their education? What is their policy push? What is their activism? And doesn't that have to just be decided by them? As in, what it is that, how they see the world right now in terms of the central problems? Like in my generation, the central problem, we grew up in the age of crack, and it was like violence, and we talked about education in terms of those two things within the community that were hurt, right? Like high levels of murder that took place year after year after year. Now we're getting these record lows, right? You talk about education, and state got taken over. That widely, Newark Public Schools was branded as something that you didn't want, which helped spur the charter school movement, right? And so that we're looking at where politics is now. It reflects a lot of the activism and the angst of a particular generation. Is your question, where is this generation's angst and where is that activism going to come from in order to try to institute change when they actually take the levers of power?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, by the way, you're raising really exciting ideas and queries. So we are, you talk about, sort of the ideas and issues that were inspiring you and your generation. And I'm thinking of those ideas that inspired me in my generation. I mean, we're in the same generation, but so for us, and because I am probably an immigrant, so for us, it was about global debt, and it was about third world debt. It was about the longing for the non-aligned movement. It was about the longing for, not the longing, but really sort of our sort of the idea of who we were sort of rested within sort of an anti-colonial experience and dreams and anti-colonial dreams. So I don't think that is different from what you were talking about, because this is about anti-colonialism. Even at a city level, it is about anti-colonialism. It is about how we understand power, how we understand money, how we understand who makes decisions. It's about all of those things. And so I think it doesn't rest. It didn't rest with me alone. It doesn't rest with you alone. We were part of intergenerational conversations about power and about history and about the future. Today, we're sort of wrestling with compounded issues around how we understand history and how we understand our position in history. And this is, something that eventually I'm hoping that we'll talk more about, but how young people sort of see the world. So I spend a lot of time talking to Gen Z and Gen Alpha folks about the way in which they view the world and how what they want, like how do they see transformation in the world? And I don't think we spend enough time doing that. And that's the intergenerational piece, because we are part of creating the transformation always, right? So when Frantz Fanon talks about, each generation does, we have to participate in that. And yes, do we have in the city, young people engaged in rigorous political education, social movement building, activism, showing up in spaces? Do we have that, or are we relying on, which is what we see, and by the way, it's not unique to Newark, it's in New York City, it's across the country, organizations that fund activism, right? So we're living at a time where philanthropy sort of funds a lot of how we think about the world and ways in which we should engage in transforming the world. So have we spent enough time building critical thinking skills for young people to have these conversations about how do you envision a world? What world do you want to live in? And I think that's the conversation we want to have. And I think that is sort of the fundamental question that young people on their own, without any prompting, without any any construction on what world do you want to live in, and what does that world look like? And I think we have enough examples of young people showing us in the climate justice movement, in the anti-policing movement. And by the way, I'm going outside of Newark to say that we've got lots of examples. Not that we don't have examples here, right, in New Jersey, but often.
Like there was a lot of activism around getting local control. There were like over 2,000 kids who, part of the reason why Vote 16 even happened, I think, is because people remembered that there were over 2,000 kids who stopped cars on the highway leading to the airport.
Yeah.
And that is part of why we got local control back. It was massive student-led protests that helped to lead the way for Chris Christie to say, hey, Newark should get local control back and switch positions from what he had when he first started when he first became governor. So I
And
think
how
that
many?
right.
And how many of those young people who are on those highways are voting to move the 12% voter turnout in mayoral elections and municipal elections over 12%, right? So how many of them are still voting? So, I mean, this is, I want to move away from the politics of party turnout to critical thinking, building critical thinking skills, and building public forums and public spaces for young people to really challenge themselves, us, everyone, on what it means to build a society that is not aligned with party, that isn't aligned with how we claiming power, how we're aligning with power, but rather power rests within the community. And we're going to create a society that's far different from what came before us because it didn't work. So let's create something new. I think that's the conversation we want young people to engage in. Those are the conversations that I'm used to. That young, growing up, like even though I grew up in a space where we didn't have identity on power and identity, but a space that allowed us to sort of think critically about like, how do we create a society that's anti-colonial? Like, I think that's the same conversation we should be having in Newark. How do we create a society that's anti-colonial?
Well, let me ask you a question, though, Josie. How much of this?
And when you're answering the question, remember we only have 3 minutes before our first.
That's right, 3 minutes.
Okay. So Josie, real quick, I think that one of the things that was occurring for me when I was in college had a lot to do around classism and racism, right? And so when John talks about, the era that we grew up in, and so coming up in college and graduate school in the 90s and so forth. So it involved a lot of classism and racism. And so we still see that here in the city of Newark. So when you talk about, there are still schools in the city of Newark that is predominantly Latino, right? And so there's some segregation going on. So when you talk about people being involved and being civically engaged and so forth, how much of that has to do with classism and racism?
So, as an immigrant and as a Black woman and as an African-Caribbean woman and as a transplant in Jersey and as someone who spent, in fact, my graduate studies in implicit bias, cognitive behavioral science, I understand that, absolutely. I'm also, want us to think about how to engage in, Reverend Barber and Eddie Glaude had this major, just fantastic conversation about that rested, of course, in James Baldwin's sort of idea about the world and society and who we are and who we want to be with each other. How we're engaging in transformational connections that get us to create a society where we're addressing that piece. Because if we're constantly engaged in that piece, we are never, and I'll send it to you, Ed Riley, I'll send it to you, and Jonathan Olson, I'll send it to you both. Amazing conversation that talked about the bridge that we must pass to engage in collaborative connections of transformational politics. So absolutely that exists. And those are tools of colonization, right? Those are tools of colonization. Those are tools of imperial power. Empires built on identity politics.
Yes.
And we, as people who are oppressed,
absolutely,
we're all too willing to sign on to identity politics. And
absolutely.
So it's Black people against Latinos, and it's Latinos against, Asians. We're engaged in that.
Absolutely.
What we have to really come to grips with, we can't engage in identity politics anymore because we are living in an age of an empire built on
that's right,
artificial intelligence and artificial generated intelligence that is going to annihilate us.
That's right.
And where are we going to be?
That's right.
And Amir Baraka
well,
would have something to say about it.
You've opened up what is a major dialogue we can't go into now, but you on it. Identity politics. There you go.
all right, cool. And I
Peace
know
out,
that's going to
people.
be
See you soon.
great discussions.
Cheers.
Well, actually, Josie,
Yes, sir.
hello. I talked to Ed, and we want you to, if you want, you definitely could stick around for these next segments. We're interviewing candidates. We have our script that we're going to, but their follow-up questions would be great too. So I know that you are a journalist. You with
I'm more than happy.
Public Square Amplified,
Just-
and you are part of our All
family.
Politics a
Yes,
Local
I'm
family.
trying to be
Right,
part of the family. So yes, thank you so much.
Right. So
I'm happy to stick around. You tell me when to step in.
okay, great. And so we have our first guest. We have a series of candidates tonight. We are going to start off with Josephine Garcia, who's running for the at-large seat in the Newark Municipal Council. She's going to be followed at 7:50 by Asia Norton, who's running for the South Ward Councilperson. At 8:20, we have Tanisha Garner, who's running for mayor. And at 8:40, we're going to have Willie Jetti, who is running for South Ward Councilperson. So we have a stacked lineup at 20 minutes each, or about 20 minutes each. So we want to make sure that we are giving all of our candidates their time. And so welcome to our first guest. Our first guest is Josephine Garcia. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
All Politics Are Local.
And Jonathan, let's also mention that she is also replacing the retiring Carlos Gonzalez. Now, how long was Carlos Gonzalez on the council, by the way?
The question is for me?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Oh, good. Good evening, everyone. I want to say good evening to Mr. Austin, Mr. Riley, Ms. Donna, Josie from the Public Square Amplified. Thank you for having me tonight. Councilman Gonzalez has been serving in the Newark Municipal Council for the last 20 years.
Wow. Amazing.
Wow. Okay.
And he personally elected you.
And he was acting mayor, or he was the mayor for a term as well, correct?
No. That's Councilman Quintana.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we're trying to, and we know we only have 20 minutes, so we want to make sure we give you the full say. So the first question that we have is about your biography. What is there in your biography that make you qualified and make you good, make you perfect for this position of at-large council person?
Okay, so thank you everyone again tonight. I'm Josephine Garcia. I'm a lifelong resident of Newark and a proud product of Newark Public Schools. I've spent more than 2 decades in public service. I started with the Mayor Sharp James administration and continuing to work on with Councilman at Large Carlos Gonzalez as his chief of staff. And as you know, Mr. Austin, I've served as an elected board member since 2017 and president of the Newark Board of Education, where I helped to lead the district into local control. Everything I do, Mr. Austin, and to the listeners tonight is rooted in my commitment to the city, to the families, to the students, and to the future of the city of Newark. I'm also a district leader here, the vice chair of the North Ward Democratic Committee. I was the president of the New Jersey School Boards Association. I'm currently the president as well of Essex Regional Services Commission. I've held a position with the Newark Puerto Rican Day Parade here in the city as well. New Jersey school boards. I'm definitely vested in my city and my town and where I live.
Okay, and so are there any questions that anyone has about like biography, what she's done? I know that she's been a huge supporter of debate on the Board of Education. And in terms of the board, are there any other questions that you have in terms of biography, in terms of her answers?
My kids actually attended Newark Public Schools. I was once a charter parent, Newark Public School parent, Mr. Austin. My kids attended Technology High School, Science Park, and my little one went to St. Peter's Prep because he loves lacrosse and lacrosse was offered there. So that's why he went over, like I told him, over the river to Jersey City. If not, he would have definitely been in Newark Public Schools.
Okay, so when we're looking at elected council people, they make issues of policy. And Newark has been through a lot in the last 10 years. What are some of the policies that you agree with? What are some of the policies that you would most want changed?
So as I've been out canvassing the neighborhood now for this position as, for Councilwoman at Large, I definitely can say that we need to strengthen the transparency and accountability in how decisions are made, especially in education and city services. I think that's something we're hearing, whether it's a forum, in our community, on social media. Families definitely deserve a clear voice. And policies should reflect real community input, like knocking on doors, as I'm hearing about DPW, as we're hearing about, the horrific snow removal. It's just, I think, not just the top of the decisions, but I believe we must align the resources with our neighborhoods as I'm traveling, whether it's the East Ward, the North Ward, the Central Ward, where I was just at a couple of minutes ago. Historically, we know that those are underserved underserved city services that I think we definitely need to make equitable investments in and ensure that we're moving in the right direction for our citizens here in Newark.
And when you say like equitable services, I was thinking of like more like what are the policies that you would have that would do that, right? Like if there are certain things that you think that if there are certain services that are not being had or they're not being had equitably, what are more specific things that you would introduce or support or work with? And the example I would have is that when there was a lot of activism about violence prevention, they started an Office of Violence Prevention, and they introduced that whole ecosystem of having violence interrupters, et cetera, that would be within that office. Those are policy things that was done and implemented, something concrete.
Right. That's an initiative. That's an initiative that Mayor Baraka, of course, began. And I think it's a great initiative, right? I think it's somewhere where the community meets the public. And when situations occur here in the city of Newark, they're able to intervene and provide immediate services along with the police department. So what happens when you're an elected council member and you work in conjunction with the administration, right? Whether it's the mayor, the business administrator, his initiatives, and create them so they can align to serve better our residents here in the city of Newark. So definitely, as I stated earlier, it would be more transparency, accountability, family services. I think constituent services is a huge one because I see that every day working in City Hall. There should be a way where when constituents come in, whether it's to file a complaint, DPW, let's say vital statistics, we're able to track when this person comes in for any type of service to say, okay, where did Josephine go? Was she assisted? Where was she referred to? What was the outcome? We don't have that in place now. And that's a little frustrating because then we see that person 24 hours later or hear about it at the next council meeting. And I think that's a policy I would definitely love to implement and change at City Hall.
So Donna, can you do me a favor as a councilwoman yourself? Can you help me ask Josephine a question when she talks about underserved communities? Can you help her, or can you help her in that question? Because I want to know, because I know people are screaming in the city of Newark about not getting certain services in their particular community. And one example might be Josephine. I know that if you drive down town in the Portuguese section of Newark, or in the neck that we call it, people are able to double park in Newark that people aren't able to do, say, in the West Ward, right? And is that based on the council person, or is that based on the residents not being politically engaged? And so, Donna, I know you as a councilwoman would probably know how to get that done as well. Maybe we can ask her that question without her, maybe it's seeming racial in its nature.
Josephine, you had your I'm gonna chime in, but I see as soon as Ed said it, you had your mic like you were about to respond. Did you have an answer for that?
I know I was going to let you, of course, elaborate first, and then I'll definitely chime in.
Well, I'm from Orange, and like, for instance, I frequent Chateau of Spain. You could double park. That's another area. And I think while I'm not at the table doing the services, I would believe that's more of the relationship that the business owners and the community, the engagement that they all have right there, where there's an understanding of how that business brings services to the community, be it purchasing, convenience, all of the above, that the residents are willing to work together and not and not complain to the police. They all believe collectively that it's a help to the community, that they have that convenience there. So that's what I believe, and other communities may not view it in the same way, but I believe that it's an understanding that immediate community has right there, and it's on the groundwork as well, that I believe that those relationships have been established for a long time, because I haven't been working in Newark for over 20 years, and I can still go to Chateau Spain and Double Park, and I just believe that it's a relationship issue that everybody has. And I believe, like, and to what you said, Ed, I believe it's the councilperson, the mayor, everybody's talking to one another in that instance, where everybody understands that for the greater good, that everybody is willing to allow that and not make it so punitive for individuals.
So I would like to piggyback on that. I mean, Ed, I think double parking and unequal enforcement, right, in our city, let's be honest, double parking happens in Newark, right? It happens in the north, it happens in the west, it happens in the south, the east. I mean, I think it's just some of the neighborhoods, right? Our city is growing with the development. There's not enough parking, these projects that come up that you say, all right, we're going to put this 6-family home with only 3 parking spots. And now you have how many people living in a household?
Right.
I know I'm struggling for parking when I come home. I got to go around the block and the block and the block. And it's like, you know, we're playing parking wars here in the city of Newark. But I think it's almost become a part of our daily lifestyle here with limited parking, whether it's the old infrastructure, the business corridors. Back to what Donna was saying, you know, Newark has a lot of bids, right? Whether it's the Mount Prospect Partnership, Bloomfield Avenue, the Central Ward, the East Ward one. And in these corridors, enforcement becomes much stricter, right? People like over here where I'm at, I'm on Prospect, you get ticketed right away. You know, and now the new thing is the parking by permit. You know, so I think like we have to just read these read these proposals, take a deep dive, because I know that if I own a home and you come in for a parking permit, you get but so many tags per, whether it's a 1-family, 2-family, 3-family. So the rules aren't the same everywhere, Ed. And I think that's the approach that I think we have to find a balanced way when it comes to offering better parking in the city of Newark.
But
and do you think the rules should be the same everywhere? Right? Like, because I lived in the East Ward, and on alternate side of the street day parking, we demanded to be able to double park, right?
Exactly.
So do you think the rules should be the same everywhere, and how would you manage that?
So what happens, right? You have Newark Police, and then you have the Parking Authority, right, that I think need to align, right? Hey, on street sweeping, whether it's Tuesday or Thursdays, we should allow certain corridors to double park, because where are they going to go? Right? Your area can be 8 to 12. Mine's is 12 to 4.
Right.
Where are they going to park? Like, I know I go through it. When I get home, you got to run downstairs. And if you have a good relationship in your community, you know, they usually hit the siren, or they'll, you know, swab their lights, and, you know, you have to run downstairs to move that car. Because honestly, sometimes we forget. It's not easy.
Right. But you just said, I'm sorry, the community piece is right there. Those sirens. It doesn't immediately become punitive because there's an engagement. And I think the community, and Jonathan, you just said that y'all demand that we be able to double park, but that means somebody has to listen too. It just can't be all punitive, because people, it's a lot.
So I'm not going to call any names, but I asked you that question, Josephine, because that just happened to a former elected official parked in the West Ward. and said that he recently double parked downtown and didn't get a ticket downtown, but he was at City Hall arguing the ticket because he said, wait a minute, I was just downtown. I did the same thing, but now I parked in the West Ward. I got this $55 ticket. That's a problem for me. Right? But when you say we should be able to do that wherever, I agree. But the question becomes for me, is that a matter? Maybe it is what Jonathan just said. Maybe the people in the community are not rallying around that and saying it. And I think that goes back to what Josie said earlier about civic engagement.
If I may, and I live in a North Ward, and they are very serious about ticketing. But I want to say something about this. We're having a conversation that has nothing to do with working class issues. The majority of people take buses, and the buses need to move. And so we want to also consider, like, how folks who walk, who take buses, we want, so Josephine, do we have enough buses? Are buses running, buses running to meet the needs of working class folks who are working in the evening, late at night, early in the morning, right? So I look out my window, I'm on Mont Prospect. Folks are taking the bus at 6 a.m. and they're taking the bus at 7 a.m. frequently.
Right. So Josie, I was born and raised in this city. I know that right now I have the 27 that passes in front of my house, which is the one that passes in front of Mont Prospect, the 13 on Broadway, the city subway. Newark is definitely one of the largest transportation hubs in the Northeast. Can NJ Transit get better? Absolutely. But I think that's where we go now to our state legislators and say NJ Transit needs to do better.
So I think that, and so would you be, would you be invested in making sure there are,
Absolutely. My kids catch that bus. I have a kid that's in college that catches that bus. I've had to catch that bus.
Yeah, I've talked to the mayor about this. I spoke to the mayor about this 6 or 7 years ago when he was doing this planning discussion. There are no benches for old people to sit to wait for the bus. There are no sort of guards when it's snowing or it's raining for folks who have to take public transportation to be protected. People have cars, and yes, it's like, how many tickets do I get maybe 2 or 3 tickets a year, right? So are you willing to put that on the table? It's not in the domain of the municipal city council, but folks need, folks who live in the city and folks who take the bus to and from work, to and from school, they need protections.
So Josie, absolutely. NJ Transit should improve their services to accommodate the Newark residents. I hear you. I live it. I know it. And I would definitely begin, to hit the ground running with working with our state legislators. Absolutely, the bus shelters. Montclair has bus shelters. Bloomfield has bus shelters. Belleville has bus shelters. Why can't Newark have them?
And Jonathan and Ed, if I may have just one more question.
We are running out of time for this particular segment, and I just wanted to get one question into one of the
You should have gave me an hour.
I know we should have, and we will have you back. We want to have you back. But Ed earlier talked about the city potentially being divided, the situation at Global. Maybe there are some issues with the city in terms of people being able to come together. This last part, do you perceive that there is a problem of division within the city among racial class lines? And what would you do in order to help unify the city? You're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry, I was on mute, so I was okay. So as we all know, I sat on the school board when this incident occurred. As we all know, it was a legal matter. As much as I want to say what I really, what my heart feels, I don't, racial tensions, like Newark is not a divided city. My kids are Afro-Latinos. My kids are half Dominican, Puerto Rican, I don't instill that in my children. Did something occur? Absolutely. But we're a city with many backgrounds, neighborhoods, right? Lived experiences. I think that's what defines us. Like that builds character in kids. However, the shared commitment, Mr. Alston, I think it needs to be one another, right? You're an educator in these schools. We see what goes on, but we need to be careful not to repeat those narratives and weaken the public's confidence in our schools and our city. Like, you know, I wish I could talk more about that incident. And I've had to, you know, really, I think I've said it many times, whether it's at the school board meeting, city hall, but, you know, I think we're stronger when we stand together. We're stronger when we don't divide our city. I think we just have to continue to reinforce that and not divide that.
Okay.
Well,
Jonathan, can I just ask a real quick question?
It's really quick, Ms. Donna, but, you know, as a city, I think we've made real progress, right? Us, our people, our backgrounds, investing in Newark's success. And I think that's something that we just all have to continue to build on and not, I just cannot like take that narrative about that the city's divided. It's not.
Okay. All right. We're closing now. This is a hip hop political show. I just want you to name your hip hop artist, individual or group that you listen to, and a person listening online, they want to know whether Newark City subway is still in use. So can you answer that real tight? Your hip hop song or the Newark City subway still in use?
Huh? The city subway, of course it is in use. The Heller Parkway station, though, is not. I want to know when that stop is coming back, because that's a beautiful stop, which puts us right through Branch Brook Park. Oh my God, hip hop artists. You made me think about Big Daddy Kane from my day. You made me think about KRS-One. Naughty by Nature used to hang on my block on Irving Street. So, I mean, those were the good old days. And I truly, truly love old school hip hop.
Okay, and we see that your line is 15B. If somebody wants to help or get in contact, how do they reach you?
So they can actually call me at 973-391-3054 or email our campaign at jgarcia4newark@gmail.com. Everyone, this is a huge election. It's the Newark Municipal Election. You have phenomenal candidates. Please come out and vote on Tuesday, May 12th, 15B for Josephine Garcia for Councilwoman at Large. And I want to thank everyone at All Politics Are Local. I always enjoy when Mr. Alston invites me to come on and share with my community. Next time, I'll take the slot that's a little longer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you will be invited back. You will be invited back often, right? Like, so we will hope to have you on more regularly.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe, and I'll see you out there on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we have our next candidate who is coming on, and our next candidate is very familiar to our show. Welcome, Asia Norton, to All Politics Are Local as a candidate this time, from being part of our show, being a board member, to candidate for the South Ward. Welcome.
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for having me as a guest.
So we're starting off. I know we only have 20 minutes, and the first question is, what is there about your biography? You are running for the Councilwoman of the South Ward. What is there about your biography that makes you the person that people should come out and vote for?
Yeah, so again, thank you to All Politics Are Local. I'm not going to say family because people might think you guys are being biased, but thank you to All Politics Are Local for having me on. My name is Asia Norton. I'm running for South Ward Council. The election is May 12th. My line item is 1C. And so a little bit about me. I'm born and raised right here in the South Ward. I'm actually third generation Newarker. And third generation teacher in my family. And so my mother, grandmother, all teachers here in Newark, and I followed in their footsteps and I became a teacher. Shortly after, I got on the school board here in Newark, and I chaired the finance and budget committee, chaired the legal committee, became the board vice president and the board president. And so working with a large budget, working with city that has diverse interests, students that have diverse needs. And so bringing my experience and my expertise onto the city council representing the South Ward. I also had the pleasure of going back to school, attending Rutgers Law right here in the great city of Newark, and I am now a commercial real estate attorney. And so, as you know, or as some of you may know, the South Ward is going through this economic boom, a lot of development. And so, with property taxes increasing and with developers coming in, and getting tax abatements, we need leadership that understands what this means, and we need leadership that knows how to advocate on behalf of our residents. And so when I say making sure developers are giving the community what they need, we need to make sure we're holding developers accountable for creating green spaces. We need to make sure that we're holding developers accountable for not only providing jobs for our residents, but giving workforce development as well. And so we need to make sure that the jobs that are being created is union jobs that are going to allow our residents to stay here, raise their families here, and not being pushed out. And so that's just a little bit about me. Like you said, 20 minutes. And so I want to make sure we get to as many questions as possible.
The second thing that we want to ask, and this is probably the most lengthy part of the conversation, is what policies would you really support that exist now that you think are really good, and what would you do right now? What policies would you support that are specific to life in the South Ward if you were to win for South Ward Council?
Yes. So one policy that I've been very big on pushing is with our homeowners, our renters, in the last year, there has been tax increases. So properties have been reevaluated, and homes, buildings, our values have increased due to development, and taxes are increasing. And some of our residents are unable to afford their property just because of their property taxes alone. I speak with seniors all the time, and they say that if their taxes continue to increase, although their mortgage is paid off, they're unable to maintain the property taxes. Also, and I wanted to make this connection, sometimes people believe that when you're a renter, you don't pay property taxes, and that's not the case. And so if you live in an apartment building, whether it be a 2-family house, a 3-family house, or there are about 100 units in your apartment building, when your landlord property taxes increases, your landlord pushes those monies to your rent. And so your rents are increasing at the same time. And so we need to be making sure that we're putting safeguards in place that allow, whether it be homeowners, whether it be renters, they're going to allow them to stay where they are if they choose to, right? People do want to move, but we need to be creating safeguards that allow people, residents, to stay in the South Ward.
And just to give our audience an idea of what you're talking about in terms of tax increases, what would be, like, from what you've heard, what has been the jump then? Like, it was one rate, and then because of the more recent increases, it became another. And in addition to that, what are some of the safeguards you would talk about?
Yeah, so in terms of the jumps, double digits, right? And so we're not talking about my property taxes have increased 1% or 2%. They're increasing in the double digits. And if you're a senior, you're in a fixed income, and you're not bringing in additional monies, your fixed income is fixed income, you're not prepared to be paying that type of jump. And so one type of safeguard is, so a lot of people don't know, but when your property value increases, which causes your taxes to go up, you can file for a tax appeal. You can file for appeal down at City Hall. And a lot of people don't even know that. And so you can appeal, you can fight for the value of your home going up, which is causing your property taxes to increase. And so putting in a system in place that is taking that burden off of our residents to do that heavy lifting. And so if you're filing a tax appeal, one, you need to know about it. So we need to educate our residents that's possible. And then two, we need to be putting in systems in place that is taking that burden off of our residents to go down to City Hall during the hours of 9 to 5, because I know I have a job. I know that I have a child to raise. And so the luxury of just going down to City Hall 9 to 5 on any given day to handle a tax appeal and understanding the different processes that come with that. And so as City Councilwoman representing the South Ward, putting mechanisms in place that takes that burden off of our residents and putting that burden more on the government to put these safeguards in.
Okay.
So,
Josie, you had something you were.
Yeah. So this bit about housing development and the impact on residents, right? And I want to hear more about how you see city government taking the burden off of residents, particularly seniors. So that's one. What sort of policies, or would you recommend setting up an office that is independent to work with seniors to ensure that they do not lose their homes? This is also connected to the amount of housing development and economic development that we're seeing. And so you call it a boom. And for many working class folks, it would not be a boom because they're being displaced. So I have concerns about your view of economic development and ways in which you place and can support if you place working class folks at the center of this conversation, because developers are always going to be at the center of the conversation. And so if you see it as a boom, you are saying that you are going to allow for displacement of working class folks. So I want to find out more.
I'm not saying that. I just want to make sure that's not what I'm saying.
When you say a boom, it is, right? So let's talk more about
I'm not saying
displacement.
That.
Let's talk more about displacement and what sort of policies to support residents. And when you say that the tax increases are also being incurred by residents, they're not claiming it on their taxes. They are paying a higher rent, but they're not claiming the increased taxes on their taxes. So, and then the next piece is, how would you like
we just want to make sure it can answer
to support that?
Yeah. So thank you for your question. And when I say economic boom, it's acknowledging that there is development happening. It's a boom. And so I just wanted to clarify that in terms of what I mean by that. It's understanding that it's happening, and it's happening at an increased rate. And so it's a boom. It's happening not necessarily suddenly, but at an increased rate. And so in terms of how to take off that burden, the state of New Jersey already has something in place where seniors can apply for their property value or to get a rebate. And so the city can do something similar on our level. And I do appreciate your suggestion of creating a separate department that's focused on our seniors. And so that we are able to not necessarily say like, oh, how do I do this? Oh, get in contact with this person, and then that person directs you to another department. But thank you for that. And so with that said, I just want to, majority of my campaign platform is based on things that I've heard from residents. Another thing that I've heard from residents is dealing with the budget and having budget committees amongst the wards to allow residents explain where they want monies to be focused on and invested in. And another thing that I heard from residents is our trees are aging and causing property issues, roots going into plumbing systems. And so once again, thank you for that suggestion. And my campaign is based on what I'm hearing from residents, whether it be seniors, whether it be from folks around my age, whether and college graduates coming back to Newark or staying in Newark. We have universities here. And so being able to target and address everyone's needs as best as possible.
Candidate Norton, I wanted to ask or make a suggestion, or have you thought about, you talked about in consideration of the reval happening and the impact it had, and doing legislation where it could be helpful to the homeowners, to the residents of Newark. One of the things I noticed when I was a council person is that residents, particularly our seniors, are always running to catch up with information. Are you familiar with tax freezes for senior citizens and other tax programs for our military? And if so, have you thought about when elected, putting things in place so that when a senior turns the age, that they can immediately put in for a tax freeze so they can get, the immediate advantage, as opposed to finding out 5 years later and things of that sort?
I appreciate that question. And there's, yes, I do agree that majority of stuff that happens in our country when our more seasoned residents turn of age, things automatically kick in, right? AARP, no one has to physically apply for AARP. They actually receive things in the mail. And so same thing can happen on a local level, like the city of Newark. There are things that mailers already get sent out. I have aunts and uncles who are that are more seasoned. And as soon as they hit that golden age, they're receiving information about all the different events or activities that are reserved just for them. And so we can do the same thing on a tax basis. In terms of a tax freeze, we have the Southward population is very diverse. We have homeowners, we have renters, we have snowbirds, right? People that move around throughout the year. And so we do need to do evaluations of what are the needs of everyone, because not every program is going to everyone's situation.
Yes, have you looked at how any programming to benefit the residents from Newark Airport sitting in Newark? Are there any discussions about how that can be a benefit and not a burden to the residents of Newark?
Yes. So when we talk about Newark Airport, also acknowledging the extension of the PATH train, right? And so currently we have a train station that caters to Newark Airport, but with the extension of the PATH train, and from my understanding, it's being called like Airport City down there by the Dayton Street area. That will most certainly affect the Southward residents. We already have Lionsgate Studio down there, and right now the extension of the PATH train going all the way down to the Dayton Street area, they're still at the preliminary state of figuring things out. There hasn't been any eminent domains. There hasn't been any concrete plans, no zoning ordinances or redistricting of any sort. And so we need someone such as myself that has the experience of working with developers, working with municipalities, and putting together zoning plans that's not going to push out our existing residents. We also need to have someone such as myself representing the Southward when all this is going on with the extension of the PATH train all the way down to the Dayton Street area. That's going to make sure that we have someone at the table advocating for greener spaces, advocating for workforce development, advocating for workforce development to be catering to developing our residents, to having union jobs, allowing our residents to stay here and not being pushed out. And so we need folks that are experienced. We don't need people that are going to learn on the job. This is being a city council person, being a Southward council person is not an on the job training type of position. It is, we need folks that have the experience, that know how to advocate, and that know how to advocate in the best interest of folks who are here, Southward residents.
So Asia, let me ask you a question. I mean, I know that you recall we had a guest that you had invited on the show where we were talking about the South Ward, we were talking about Weekway and all of that. Have you given any thought, because I just saw this in the news where New York Mayor Mamdani establishes Mayor's Office of Deed Theft Protection. Have you given any thought to perhaps establishing a South Ward councilwoman's office around, I mean, because we're talking about your commercial real estate experience at this point, maybe establishing an office in the South Ward to protect seniors and community folk and renters based around, being priced out of housing. Have you given any thought, perhaps maybe around that, and then maybe bringing in the community around businesses? Because if you remember, one of the things we talked about was that at least when I was growing up, I could remember that whole Bergen Street corridor was full of African American businesses. My family owned a construction business and had it right there in the South Ward. As you know, most of all of our elected officials lived in the South Ward. Have you given any thought to that at all? Maybe establishing a councilwoman's office around those ideas?
Ed, thank you so much for raising that. I too saw that about the mayor of New York establishing a deed theft protection. And so what has been happening, I'm not too sure if that is as prevalent here in the South Ward, but the thing is, right, if it's happening in New York, it's happening in New York Avenue, right? And so, and deed theft is very, I would assume, very common among seniors, right? And so seniors that may be senile, that may not have family that's going to check in on them, see how they're doing. We do need to put protections in for our seniors. There are predators out there, and we need to make sure that their investment that they have poured into their entire lives, that no one is ripping it away from them. So yes, absolutely. In terms of Bergen Street as a business corridor, we have Lyons, we have Chancellor Avenue, we have Hawthorne Avenue, we have Clinton Avenue, Clinton Place, Avon Avenue. What we don't even have in Newark, but definitely not in South Ward, is a South Ward Chamber of Commerce. And these type of organizations allow for businesses to grow and invite more businesses. Right. And so if you go down the different business corridors that I explained, you'll see empty storefronts, plenty of empty storefronts. And so as a South Ward councilwoman, I will be working towards instilling a South Ward Chamber of Commerce to allow for our businesses to work together in partnership with myself, with the city, to grow and to invest back into those corridors. Simple things, like you said, growing up, I remember the Bergen Street Festival. That was one of my favorite summertime events. And seeing just like the aesthetics, the storefront. We're not even investing into, we do, I don't want to say that. We do have organizations that does its best to keep the aesthetics up of those corridors, but it needs more. It needs more. And we need people that are going to be intentional about investing more and being intentional of growing out our business, because no matter what, as a city, the number one thing that we need to be worrying about is creating revenue. How do you create revenue? Increase property taxes. We don't want that. Another way of increasing revenue, bringing in more business, also increasing our middle class. That's why we need to be putting pressure on our developers of hiring our people and hiring them in a way that is going to allow them to pour back into the community. Do that by union jobs.
Jonathan is muted, so it's good. Before he tells you gotta leave, who's your hip hop? Who you listening to?
And I wanted to throw that into the last question that I've been asking everyone. Yes, answer the hip hop question, but also a question that I've been asking everyone. What is your perception of racial division within the city, and what would you do to unify the city from any tensions that you perceive may or may not be there?
And Jonathan, Josie had a question as well.
Yeah, after that, yeah.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that question. And so if you're from Newark, if you currently live here, if you travel amongst the different wards, we can honestly say that we are segregated, right? And so if you go to the West Ward, there's a population there. You go to the North Ward, you go to the South Ward, and it's a beautiful thing, right? And so people of like culture, of like background, we tend to live amongst each other. It's a beautiful thing. But with that, it is segregated. And because it's segregated, we don't have opportunities to necessarily live amongst each other. And so when we're talking about creating more racial unity, we need to be intentional of bringing us together. How do we bring people together? One of my favorite ways is sports. Something that we had when I was growing up is the youth games, right? It's when the city of Newark put teams together and we sent our children out and to compete with other cities, probably like Baltimore, Chicago. Don't hold me to those exact places, but just to give an example. And so we can have our own version of youth games, right? We can bring our children from the North Ward to compete with our children in the South Ward, and that allows them to get to know each other. Something already happens like that with basketball, but not everyone plays basketball, right? Some people play volleyball. Some people are swimmers. I was a lifeguard here in the city of Newark. And so bringing folks together in a unison way, such as sports, and it doesn't only have to be sports. It can be chess. It can be it can be debate.
Debate.
I said it first. And so, and it could be debate. And instead of these things happening in our silo community, so only happening at Weekway, only happening at science, only happening at technology or Behringer, we can have these different types of youth games and where we are allowing our children to cross our ward borders.
And I know that we wanted another question, but we literally have two more guests on, and we are running out of time. So the hip hop question, and then we should move to our next guest.
Hip hop question and your line and contact.
Yes, so I've been listening to a lot of Kendrick Lamar. Don't ask me why, but it's the vibe. And so again, my name is Asia Norton. I'm running for South Ward Councilwoman. The election is May 12th, Tuesday, May 12th. And my line item is 1C. Again, Asia Norton running for South Ward Council, 1C. Come out May 12th. Thank you.
Hey, Asia, I got to ask you a question as you leave. Do you know that we speak those things that be not as though they were? You know that. You're a church girl, right?
Amen. I try not to project it as much, but when you preach the word, you preach the word. So amen. Amen.
I just want to say, good talking to you, Councilwoman.
I appreciate that.
She's a St. James AME church girl.
Amen. Amen. Girl. All right. I know you have other guests. I appreciate you all. And until next time, have a good one.
We appreciate you back. We appreciate you back. And take care. All right, so we have coming on next. We have Tanisha Garner, who is running for mayor of the city of Newark. And all right, so she is not back there, but I think she's going to jump back in. But it was good. It was always good seeing Asia on the show.
But you do have another guest, though, John.
Yes, I just don't. I'm probably, if she doesn't pop back up, I'm going to put in that next person who's going to run, and then put her in afterwards.
So while we're waiting for her to pop up, a little history. The U.S. Youth Games. I want to say the city of Newark was in the initial U.S. Youth Games.
Okay. All right. So I think we are. If she doesn't pop up right now, I'm going to. She's back. All right.
Technology.
Yes. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good having you on. You are running to be mayor of the city of Newark. Tell us about yourself. What is there about your biography, about your history, that would make you great for the mayor of Newark?
Oh, I just want to thank everyone for having me on. And one, I got to give thanks to God before we even start. And then number two, I'm a lifelong Newarker. I lived in the city of Newark all my life. And I always start off with, my middle name is Hafiza. And in Arabic, it means guardian and protector. So I was destined to do this work. Ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to stick up for the underdogs. And I still do that to this day. So I do a lot of advocacy work throughout the city of Newark. I remember going to the council meetings when Frank Hertz was there. And I remember when when the children was trying to get local control back. And I remember going to the meetings with Miss Wilhelmina, God rest her soul. And so I always been in the trenches and being around advocates in the city of Newark and just learning from them and learning how to advocate, for myself and for others. I also started off with Newark Preschool Council. I was the parent representative to the board of directors for 1 year. And then the second year, I was the vice chair to the policy council for Newark Preschool Council. And I remember, I know when you have to deal with having crossing guards and you having children that's under 5 years old, they say that the parent is responsible for crossing the children. So I remember I did a campaign and I went to the council meeting on behalf of the school, and we ended up getting like crosswalks and cross signals. So that was a sign of advocacy and, just fighting for children to be able to read, especially in the beginning of preschool, because that is the start. And it's sad that they have the preschool, the pipeline, to jail. And it's like, how do we deter that? It's one about knowing thyself. And once you know thyself and know how to educate yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically, you could be able to change what you see in your community. And then from there, I started doing advocacy work for the environmental piece. My daughter, she was on the front cover of the Village Voice when they wanted to do the trucks, when they wanted to do the piece on that. And then it was about the diesel trucks, but I don't think they ever finished the project. But and then we also fought for the community impact law ordinance that was in the city of Newark that deals with different industries that's coming into our community and how the community impact affects us all, especially in the Ironbound, because Ironbound being by the EPA and the DEP, which was they call us an environmental justice community. So I remember being part of the truck counts, counting the trucks that's coming in our community. We also was fighting against, now the power plant. And before that, they wanted to build like a sludge plant. And we actually stopped that piece. And then I also helped with advocacy when it comes to housing. So one of the initiatives that we did, it was the community and also a lot of the residents, we came together. And you remember when when we had the rent control in 2017, and when the city council put it on, we actually we did a ballot initiative. So we had to get over 1,800 signatures to be able to put it on a ballot. And that's when the city of Newark came back and actually made the rent control ordinance stronger. And then I remember in Ironbound when they wanted to do the MX3. And so what the MX3 was, they actually changed the zoning law for a particular developer, and they wanted to build 20 stories. In the community, we came together and we advocated, and we ended up negotiating for 12 stories. So that's some of the work that I have done. And then the last project that we worked on was the Iberia project, where the city of Newark actually changed the zoning law for the beginning of Ironbound. Because when you look at it, it's densely populated, and it's a lot of the buildings are low density buildings. And this particular project, they wanted to build 226 and 230-story buildings. And they literally changed the zoning law from upzoning from 12 stories to 30 stories. And just getting the community voice involved. And we had over a 5-hour hearing. And that shows you the power of the people. And more people need to understand that they have the power. So that's some of the work. And I also was part of the Newark shops. So I was part of Tide Capital. And with Tide Capital, I was part of, I did that class because it was helping entrepreneurs. And I remember that day I had my graduation, and a young brother got killed at higher court. And I remember that was a graduation. Then after that, I had to do, we did the ribbon cutting. So I was honored to do the ribbon cutting. And in the ribbon cutting, I gave a speech about the community. And from there, I have a business called Chosen Designs, where it deals with, I make custom made jewelry and T-shirts. And what I did was I did a partnership with the fire department, the police department, and neighboring children in the neighborhood. So it was some of them was from Aspen at the time, Terrell Homes, and also some of the children that was in the surrounding area. And I ended up winning. I ended up getting tickets from the Devils Stadium, and I took them to a hockey game. And at that time, one of the young guys, he was actually playing hockey, and so that actually, helped him to be more exposed to what he was doing. And then we also partnered with the fire department, and then we had the fire trucks come out, and it was called the poster contest. So it was called "Love Where You Live Where You Love." And it is like, how do you teach the youth to respect where they live? And that is the foundation of how we're starting to change from generation to generation. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Jonathan,
No,
you're
no, that's
muted.
my fault. I'm muted. I'm muted.
Okay.
So, what are the
Yeah.
policies that you would support uh, as mayor? Like, what are the things that you like about what's going on, and what are the things that you would actually support in terms of policy?
Well, one is definitely when it comes to housing, and it's sad how it's like we had the inclusionary zoning, and inclusionary zoning is like 20%, but it should be blanketed because it's sad how we are demolishing a lot of low income housing. I was just recently at Rutgers Law School, and I was at the clinic, and the clinic actually is putting together a way to advocate for HUD. So what the Trump administration wants to do is require 40-hour work week, and plus give you a 2-year limit on your housing, right? And then they also want to take away the 30 days. Like say if someone is going to get evicted and you get a notice for 30 days, they wanted to reduce 30 days from 1 to 3. No, it's 1 to 3 and 1 to 15 days. So what is that going to do when the market is so low? And so we need to be able to advocate on each level, from the federal, from the state, and from the local. And it's like, okay, we understand we need development, but we need responsible development. And how do we preserve the existing stock that we have, right? And because it's impacting us all, and especially like, okay, if that creates a mass eviction, what are we going to do as a whole to protect us all? Because I know homeowners are dealing with high property taxes, and the developers want to come and they need a tax break, and that's why they give them 20-30 year tax abatements. But we really have to see how can we make it holistically that what we are doing is really benefiting the community, and especially when we have renters that could pay market rate rent, but God forbid if they lose their job. So how do we put in these safe measures and use the policies and the laws that we already have on the book to be able to strengthen them? And to me, I feel as though it needs to be a conversation. I'm just one person. Just because I'm the mayor don't mean I have all the answers. That means I have to sit with everyone to understand how can we holistically better the city of Newark.
And Josie, you had a question last time. First shot at the questions on policy this time.
Sure. Thank you so much. You could be, and Jonathan and Ed and Donna will correct me. You could be the first, female mayor of Newark.
Yeah.
You could also be the first mayor with a working class agenda. And you could be, from listening to you, you could be a mayor that is placing environmental justice at the forefront of your platform. Recently, Lionsgate signed a community agreement, right, to establish, their headquarters and to build out. The community agreement was not signed by any community organization or resident. how would you as mayor ensure that community agreements are transparent, are public, and that community members are part of negotiating community agreements?
I'm happy that you brought that up because that's what happened with Terrell Holmes.
Correct, yes.
And with Terrell Holmes, we actually assisted the tenants at that time to be able to write the community benefits agreement. So that would have to go through the state. We have to actually change the laws because the way that they have it, the power is the mayor. So as the mayor, I need to sit down with everyone in the community to see what they want. What a community benefits agreement means, what benefits the community, right? And then we have to understand when it comes to zoning and planning, how is the city being zoned? Are the resources there to make everyone successful at each stage of their life? Because people are coming at different times. So when you think of a community benefits agreement, are we truly getting the value of what is going to make our city thrive? So it would definitely be important. And just to be able to sit down and to understand what the community needs and how we get it done. And that's why you bring in other specialists, you know, so even though we might not know something and we bring in someone that knows, and then we could be able to negotiate in a proper manner.
And Jonathan, if you don't mind, can I follow up on that answer? Like, how do you decide on specialists and experts, right? How do you make that determination? Like, how do you select those?
Okay, like for instance, when we did with the Iberia project, we worked with a lot of universities. And then with the universities, a lot of the students, oh my God, like when they did the Iberia project, we worked with NJIT, and I actually got to see some of their designs and the ideas that they have. And then also, I guess, you know, the typical that you interviewing them to see what expertise they have, what's the successful rate that they have done in prior projects, you know? And then, like I said, it's going to be a collective, not just me. It will be a group that will come in and understand and assess whoever that we want to bring in. And then also make it a teaching, make it teachable for the community to understand how we do it. Like, for instance, I know I was part of SPAN because through Newark Preschool Council, we had county councils. And with the county councils, they used to do train a trainer. So we're going to bring, like you said, we bring in the universities, we bring in other entities that actually are successful, and to be able to teach the community to better understand how these roles are being played. Because education is the key. If you're not educated, how do you know how to advocate properly?
Candidate Garner, earlier, actually last year, a year ago, around this time last year at Delaney Hall, you seen right after the current president came in and his enforcement, we seen the incident that happened down at Delaney Hall and with people being locked up. And one of the first cases happened in Newark, and come to find out they were actually citizens. If elected, what will you do to continue to ensure that Newark residents are protected against what the federal government is trying to do in regards to deportation and violating citizens' rights?
They violate citizens' rights all the time. This is nothing new. And I think we need to really be real about it. You know, it's sad, and we have to educate. The simple fact that they're trying to take away our civil rights and what they're doing to humanity. People have to stand up. They have to protect one another. You know that's why we're supposed to have, the community blocks, the community watch blocks. If someone's coming in your community, or if you see ICE coming in the community, we have to properly educate one another on how to protect one another. And to understand about the police department, you're here to serve and protect. So how do we educate one another on the proper ways to protect us, and then be able to have these attorneys and these judges that's not going to side with the wrong? It has to, they have to start doing what's right, because we are being affected. And the simple fact how they bring in all this artificial intelligence and people are losing jobs, and the impact that is causing on everyone. You don't know why they particular, I guess, looking at certain type of people or targeting certain type of groups, you know? And it's like, how do we understand it and then be able to protect? And there's going to be a lot of hard questions that need to be answered. And we have to start doing that and demanding it, because we never got our reparations, you know. And then off the backs of others that come here, they need to understand and respect it too. And we got to work together the same way our Spanish brothers and sisters are getting deported. We've been, they already took our land. The simple fact how they did with Newark, and with, you know, now we're going through this thing they say gentrification. We always been through this. So when are people going to start, you know, uplifting what we're doing at the same time as we protecting others?
I
So,
think that you've already answered the question on unification,
oh,
kind of with that, right? Like, I mean, I didn't ask you yet, but you know,
okay.
I asked everyone that question, and I think that that was a perfect segue. And I know we're almost at the end of this segment,
So Jonathan, I got
but
a
Ed,
question
or
more. Yeah. So my question is, you know, one of the things you just brought up, you said responsible development. Are you familiar with Charles Barron, the former councilman out of New York, out of Brooklyn, New York? Well, we've
Um,
had the show several times, but he was on the show one time when he was talking about not allowing developers to build housing in the city of Newark, and they would not give tax abatements unless they built a property that the people who had been living in the community could afford to live in those new properties. So, in other words, as you know, in Newark, the average income is about 32,000. But most of these buildings that are being built now, people need to damn near be making a six-figure salary in order to be living in those buildings. As mayor, when you talk about responsible development, what would you do in line with what Charles Barron was doing to make sure that the residents in the city of Newark are able to move into those buildings?
okay, I'm not familiar with Charles Barron, so that means I need to study.
Oh, Google
But
him.
yeah, but for right now, it's like I said, we have laws on the books, and it's about preservation. We have different income streams. That's the whole purpose of us having HUD, because HUD deals with low income, and then we have our moderate income, and then we have our top tier income. And it's sad because the way that they doing the properties is like the square footage, they ripping them off too. You know, and to me, I feel as though if these developers are coming in, you have to build proper. Why are you only building studio, 1, 2 bedrooms apartments when you coming into a community that has families? So it's like you automatically eliminated it. And then we could also do community land trusts, where the community could actually start owning the land, and within the land, that property value it won't go as high, and then whoever moves in next will be able to move in and then be sustainable. So to me, it's going to be, you have to have multifaceted type of housing, because you have different incomes, and different incomes are going to want uh different, you know. And then just streamlining everything, you know, and understanding the need of what people need, especially when it comes to home ownership. Some people want to own homes, some people want to be a renter. And then how do we educate our youth so when they move into these positions and they could start being these developers and understanding how to develop the proper housing that we need? To me, I feel as though everybody need to go on a strike, whether you're a homeowner because of the property taxes, whether you're a developer because the square footage of whatever material that you need to build, it's not it's sad because the way that they're building in buildings is too fast. Why are you building everything with wood? And in the next 5-10 years, you're going to have a problem with the building being the way that the buildings are being built. They're going to have issues in their buildings, and so that's going to add on another cost. So we really have to be real with it and really look at it and really do the right thing in the beginning and not at the end, and be able to preserve these buildings that's built out of brick. You know, it's like, why do we have to demolish everything? Why can't we preserve and rehab the buildings? There's so many buildings that we have here that's on the market that's not being fully occupied. And so to me, I feel as though that would definitely drive down the cost. And then we got to hit them on a state level, on a federal level. Everybody got to come together because everyone is getting affected. And it's in the way they did with the homeless shelters. Like, come on. There's no reason why we should have a homeless shelter, because they have a housing first initiative where you can move people into the homes already. We have many vacant apartments. Why aren't they being filled? That's where we can start off right there.
All right, so I know that we're getting ready. We're at the end of this segment.
Oh,
And
okay.
Donna, are you going to ask the hip hop question?
Yes, so Tanisha, Kennedy Garner, this is a hip hop political show. When you're doing the work that you do, what hip hop individual artists do you listen to? And can you let everybody know your line number and how they can contact you?
Oh, so I love Nipsey Hussle. The marathon
Okay.
continues. And I'm also an artist. So I actually have a song called Do Better. And it's about all of us doing better. And so once again, my name is Tanisha H. Garner, and I'm running for mayor, and my line is A6. Once again, Tanisha H. Garner for mayor, line A6. It takes all of us to be able to create the change that we need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you are an artist, and hopefully we'll have you back on, and also just to talk about art and hip hop and the stuff that you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
All right, peace, everyone.
All right, and so our final guest for the night is also running for the mighty South Ward Councilperson. His name is Willie Jetti. Willie Jetti, welcome to All Politics Are Local.
Am I on? Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
you are.
girl.
Yes, you
Oh,
are.
okay. I wasn't sure. Hi, my name is Willie Sinai Jetti, a lifelong resident of Newark, 50 plus years. Wasn't born here, was born in Elizabeth. I am here running as a candidate for the mighty South Ward. What is it you would like to know about me? Because my day started at 4 o'clock this morning. I'm kind of running on fumes right now.
You wound it down. So why are you
Yeah.
running for the South Ward?
Right.
Go
What is there
ahead.
about your biography that makes you South Ward Councilperson?
Oh, wow. I've had many hats. I did a lot of work here in Newark, civil service, jobs, cosmetology, paralegal, you name it, I've done it. I'm just inquisitive, love using my hands and my mind. So what makes me a good candidate for the South Ward? I am very concerned about our future, and our future doesn't look so great. And I say that because the development of Newark looks superb, but the inclusion with that development doesn't include the Newarker. And that's what Newark has to understand. Since we were not at the table, and we were at the table, but others felt like, their policy was better than the policies that's standing. And so when we have policy and when no one actually follows that policy and they do what they want to do, that lands us in a lot of trouble. So we're in a lot of trouble from my point of view. And that's coming from a Dayton Street resident that's lived down there for a very long time, and it's called the forgotten part of Newark. And we're forgotten because we don't really get anything, we don't get help, and we survive. We were third world before everyone knew what was third world, and we're still in that state. So, what I do on a daily, when I hit the threshold of my door and I see debris, I clean my whole neighborhood. I didn't just start this thing, and leadership doesn't start by when you win an election. Leadership starts at the threshold of your door when you commit yourself to changing what you see. And that's what I've been doing for decades. I haven't just started cleaning my community, I've been doing it. I've helped people directly, thousands. So, what makes me a good candidate? It's the fact that I am so concerned and I know what I'm talking about. Ask me anything you like. I can't hear you.
Jonathan, oh, you're on mute, Jonathan.
Always doing that, right?
It
Just
sounds
jump
like,
right in
look,
before I look
you
at
sounds like you're
Facebook.
sleepy too.
Yep, always, always, always. So, what policies exist now that you would support or continue? What policies do you think that really should come about in the South Ward?
I believe that the residents should always have a voice at that table in any development aspect about building, schooling, economics, you name it. The voice of the community should be at the forefront, and nothing should happen until that voice at that table, which is the community, commits to saying, okay, we can collaborate. But until that, nothing should happen. And I'm here to make sure that voice is at that table.
You want to go, Josie? Oh, you're still on mute, Jonathan.
Questions or follow-ups, Josephine?
Sure. So I want you to sort of have just one wish, right? Just one wish. You're on Dayton, did you say? You're in the Dayton School District? Did you say that?
Yes, I'm on Dayton Street.
Dayton Street.
Mm-hmm.
So just one wish, right? You walk out of your door, and we know that that you sit in a geographic neighborhood that is one of the most overburdened communities in New Jersey regarding pollution, emissions, and the ongoing development of all of the incinerators and all of the other sort of things that are being built in your neighborhood and ways in which you're affected. Not to be complicated about it, I just want you to have one wish. You step out of your door onto your street, knowing that you're in one of those overburdened communities. What would you want to do as the South Ward Council person? Not waver on it. If you did one thing only, what would you want at the end of your term to say, I did this for my community?
Well, I'm actually doing it. I've done all the hard work, and there's not a wish. There's just me being involved and putting my hat in the ring and saying, hey, listen, I'm doing this, and I would have my community and all of South Ward support me in those efforts because I've been doing the work. As far as a wish.
But here's what I'm doing. But Jetti, you're now sitting on the
Jedi.
Sorry,
Now.
Jetti. So you're now sitting on the city council. You have power of the purse. You can write policy. You can convince your fellow council people. You get to talk to all sorts of folks. What is the one thing, like if you designed a policy, you've been doing all of this work, how do you then take the work that you've been doing all of this time to protect your community, your neighborhood, the green spaces, the streets, everything? What's the one policy that you want to convince everyone that they should sign on to, that you want to get done?
Well, the one policy, I already mentioned the policy. The policy was to ensure that the voice of the residents are always at the table and always heard. And before anyone can make a move, that transparency is there. As far as the wish is, that's the ultimate one. That's why I'm here, to have that voice at the table.
So, Willie, can you tell me what was deciding, what was the deciding thing that made you go from South Ward constituent to South Ward candidate? Why did you want to put your name in to run for, like you said, you've been in Newark for a long time. What was it that made you want to go from constituent on the sidelines to a city council member?
Oh, well, now we're getting somewhere. So when we deal with Lionsgate was a community benefits agreement that I've written myself, right? That document was 45-page document that were the guidelines that's being used across the nation right now. So me as a former paralegal, was able to draft something in 5 months, which would have taken a whole law firm, maybe 2 law firms, 2.5 years to put together. I did it in 5 months, under great pressure. And after it was done, the administration actually looked at the document, used parts of the document, but didn't acknowledge where they got the document from, and didn't include the Dayton Street area in their development. So no one signed the document. So the document, I don't care if people are saying that document is valid. It's not valid because, anytime federal monies are used, in any development, that the demographics will conclude that there's no residents and no parties to that impacted area sign that document, so the document is not valid. So as a person seeing that the residents were not acknowledged and nothing, we got 0. That's what has me right here right now, for 3C on May 12th to run for South Ward to represent my community, because I've written policy.
What do you want for the South Ward in the Dayton Street agreement that's not there? Like, you're like, hey, this was an agreement. I spent a lot of time for it. Dayton Street was ignored. What specifically do you want there?
Well, right now we have plumbers, we have electricians, we have roofers. Everyone came to me after seeing that, they were not included. They said they had to be a part of a union, and that was written into the document, but excluded, on the time of signing, just like the residents. So the question about the CBA, or what do I want? I want fairness. And it doesn't look like fairness to me when no residents has signed. I mean, you yourself, the board members yourself, could you, I'm looking at myself, I need to look at you. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Thank you. So
Mhm.
any time that the residents are not acknowledged in any document moving forward, that's justification to me. So that development, when that development comes and the taxes increase, that's you're gentrified out of your home, something you built. We have my area is considered, I'm saying probably 80 to 90% seniors. The fight, they don't have any more fight, right? And I don't like seeing people being bullied or disrespected. I come from a generation where we respect our elders, and I still respect them today. So I'm running to let others know, hey, listen, we're not just going to lay down and let this happen. They sent me, and I'm coming.
Do you know why more people are not aware of the CBA not being signed?
Why they're not aware? Everyone is aware that I had maybe 10 organizations that I wrote into the CBA personally. My community, actually, I petitioned to represent and make sure that it was documented that everything that I was doing was transparent. The only transparency didn't come when Patrick Council, and I'm saying his name, Patrick Council, agreed in the first stance that was 2 to 3 years prior, then came back and said, oh, they agreed to 90%. A year later, it dropped to 70%. 2 years later, it dropped to 50%. And then we was like, hey, along with the organizations, hey, where is this document and what are we supposed to be agreeing to? There, I guess the law firm that represents Newark said, oh well, they don't have to sign. And I was like, what foolishness and fuckery is this? But hey, if you guys feel that people are representing you to the best of their ability, you're sadly mistaken, because you're muted again, sir.
When you say CBA, you mean collective bargaining agreement?
Community benefits agreement.
Okay. And the community benefits agreement for Dayton Street specifically would have been the benefits that would come from Lionsgate Studios to the actual community that's there.
Exactly, because the impact is, you got to understand, the community benefits agreement, what I'm saying, adjusts to where uh, the impact will be so great on the residents. You have a facility, saying it will cost, let's say, 854 million to build, right? So with that facility being built, it will now say, okay, well, since this built in this impoverished area, the the houses around it actually will increase, in value. And that value, Patterson is going through it now. They have a studio built now, and now you have residents complaining. You have, for an example, in Patterson, you probably could look this up on TikTok, where a guy's taxes was like 3,000. He came back after they built the facility, and now his taxes is like $16,000. Who's
Wow.
got the money for that? So we have to be protected. I have to protect my seniors. I have to protect the homeowners. And we are such fragile. This is Newark is fragile because, and I'm going to tell you why. Newark is fragile because the stores, the bodegas depend on the people. The people depend on the homeowners. The homeowners depend on the tenants, right? You got a full circle. If there's no people to patronize the businesses will fail. You have a whole new demographic is going to step in. You have so much to consider moving forward. Sure, we want to move forward, but we want to be included in the process and protected in that process.
Yeah, thank you for this. We're definitely going to have you back on, regardless of what happens, because we need to follow what's going on in the South Ward. We need to follow what's going on with the continued developments that are taking place. All of the candidates so far have brought up taxes, tax abatement, increased taxes as a result of more things coming within the city. Donna, you have is it the last? Are you going to ask the question?
Let me just say this, pardon me. It's not just Newark. You got to understand, Elizabeth is right next door. Hillside is right next door. Irvington is right next door, right? You have all these other cities that will be impacted by Lionsgate, whether they understand it or not. This is why I'm here.
So Donna, you have the question?
So, Mr. Jedi, in the spirit of Star Wars, that's the first thing I thought of with that last name, sir. This is a hip hop political show. When you're doing the work that you're doing in the community, is there a hip hop artist, individual, or group that you listen to? And can you tell people your line number and how to reach you?
Tupac, Biggie, Redman, yeah, Tupac mostly, ambitious as a writer. I am Willie Sinai Jedi, 3C, May 12th, as your South Ward councilman.
And if they need to contact you, how do they reach you?
They could call me directly. My number is being passed out. I got 10,000 cards in. Everybody will receive it at their door. My number is 973-855-2358. That's my direct number. You feel free to call me because I'm always solicited by people that want to buy my home anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right.
And thank you for being
thank
here.
you for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Take care and good luck.
All right.
All right. So that is another week of All Politics Are Local. Thank you for jumping in, Josie. Very much appreciate having you on tonight as well to join us. Thank you also, Donna, for as usual all the time, as always, and thank our guests, the disciples and Louise Scott-Rountree and First Lady Balena Ali for coming on tonight. And also a big thank you to all of our candidates for coming on tonight. Josephine Garcia, who's running for the at-large seat on the Newark Municipal Council. Asia Norton, who's running for the South Ward, to be South Ward Councilperson. Tanisha Garner, who's running for Newark Mayor. And Willie, Jetti, who is running for South Ward Councilperson. We do believe in civic discourse. We will have many people on. We were trying to have as many people on as possible who are running for public office. We're going to have a series of people on for next week as well. And if you want to be on, contact us through the email, allpoliticsarlocal@gmail.com. The R is just the letter R, all politics are local, as in the way that we spell it here, at gmail.com. And contact us. We will try to make space for you to get on and to talk, because again, we think it's important that people know who the politicians are, who wants to be a politician, and to get their positions and to get their statements out. Big thanks. Any other announcements that anyone wants to make? Josie, Donna?
Josie, did you have an announcement?
Yeah, we're actually doing an investigative piece on the federal cuts to what the activists are doing around climate climate justice and environmental justice in the Ironbound and in the South Ward. So we're publishing. I think it's already published. Part 2 will be next week, and engaging responses from the federal government on what can communities, or what will happen to communities when you're gutting these projects, and which is why the Lionsgate piece is particularly important for us to talk about, and more so in the larger context of what happens to communities and the pressure that homeowners are being demanded to bear when we live in a city where we have a very low homeownership rate, and that low homeownership rate has to bear the burden of all sorts of taxes and tax abatements, etc. So there's a bigger conversation to be had on the city and its tax base, development and tax abatements, and what's happening with these community benefits agreements. It's just really important, not just in Newark, but in cities like Patterson and Camden and Trenton and other places where in low-income census tract cities, you have a lot, which is why developers build in those cities. You have massive tax abatements because it is connected to being a low-income census tract city, and so you can build there, and it doesn't, you don't bear the cost. So that's, and this is not today or 10 years ago. It has nothing to do with Ras Baraka or Mandani. This is the way housing development has been established for decades. This is coming off of Robert Moses, et cetera. So I think it's a worthy conversation to have over time, and how you support a city with rising costs, disappearing jobs, displacements, and all of those things. I think it's worthy, especially if you want to have, if we want to support a city where working class people can thrive, where we can build communities where young people are being prepared to take over the reins. I think those are all things that I think All Politics Local, in collaboration with Public Square Amplified,
Of course.
can do that together.
We look forward to those conversations. Absolutely.
And then next Friday, we will be back. But before you join us at 6 p.m., please join People's Organization for Progress for the May Day rally in March. And it will be at 11 a.m. starting at the Lincoln Statue in front of the courthouse in Newark. Again, it starts at 11 a.m. and it's the May Day rally in March for workers' rights, social justice, and solidarity at 11 a.m. And thank you. And I just want to shout out all the students. I sent everybody the piece that got out and voted for the school board election. Keep doing it. Keep voting. And don't forget, there's a lot of school board elections, which we'll be talking about in November. So I'm proud of the students.
One vote at a time.
All right. Thank you. Until next week, take care and be safe.